Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addicts live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case.
All rise. Court is now in session.
Is that correct?
I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
I'm not a camel. Alrighty. Good morning. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and you are all here today. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's wonderful to be here with you. Let's see. We have just a couple things to get squared away. First and foremost, most importantly, Britta Aller, congratulations on being first in chat. You know the punishment, the penalty, the prize that is associated with being first in chat. That is internet ownership for the day, at least until we go live again. So, Britta, congratulations. You have done this before. You are now on the repeat offender list. But luckily for us, that means you know what you're doing and everything will run smoothly. So thank you very much, Britta. Congratulations on being first in chat. Do I see a beard? A little bit. I trimmed it down, but I have not gotten rid of it completely. It's not completely gone. So yes, you do see a beard, just a little bit. Okay, we have one other very, very important thing to take care of.
Mike, what day is it, Mike? Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Hump day! Welcome to Wednesday. It is awesome to have you here. Halfway through the week. Just checked my calendar to make sure that you were correct, and I wasn't getting my leg pulled there. I'll read anything if it pops up on the screen. It's awful. Let's see. Yes, it is good to be here halfway through. We're on day two of the Darrin Lopez trial, so that's going to be beginning here. Yes, we cleared the pipes. I think we broke the pipes is what happened. We're going to need some water. At least it's cold. The condensation from the heat in the house, the water bottle's just like dripping from condensation. It's so stinking hot in here. Oh my goodness. There we go. And I succeeded in dumping water all over the mouse. I'm not sure if that's a succeed or a fail. But I did it. And now my mouse pad needs a little quick wipe off. But oh, that is good. That was worth it. That was worth it. Okay. Quick cleanup on aisle 7 here. We'll do a wipe it off on the pants. That usually works. It looks great from here. All right, welcome. We're just getting kicked off. I think everything's working right. Well, by everything working right, I mean things are not working right, but I found a way around it. My internet replay machine, this little rewinder, is not sending a solid signal right now, and I'm not sure if it's the heat. I'm not sure if it's just said I refuse to work in these conditions until the temperature is down below 90. You cannot rely on me for anything. But that may be the case. It's been running a little bit warm. So we've got it unplugged right now. We're going to let it cool down for a bit, which means I don't have the ability to replay something. So probably no police chases today is what I'm saying. That's the end result of that one. But let's see. We have a couple people in the house. Let's start right now and have everybody raise their hands for a quick roll call. As we do that, we've got some people, some new faces, some returning faces. Good to see you all. Let's see. Let's start with the hands. Polly, hi from the UK. Good to have you here as well. Ann G. C. Gilmore, 123. Good morning from Vancouver, British Columbia. I have to, at the same time, I have to give a shout out to, let's see, where's it at? I missed it. I think Sharon posted it earlier, and it's off the screen now. But JB up in Canada as well. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing fantastic. Let's see. I'm just looking for hands. Let's see, hands. Hi there. From Kimbers, Ohio. Saying hi to Red Pen, but we'll just step right in the middle and intercept that one. Let's see, we have afternoon from UK. Pamela Fleming is here. Okay, Kimbers, Ohio. Thank you. I see you there again. Watching for the hands. Here we go. Stacy with the butterflies. Good morning to you. Good to have you here. Good morning, Patches, as well. Eileen is welcome. Good to have you here. Good to see you. I have 2 fans running. Hopefully it's not too noisy in the background. Let me know and I'll turn them off for you if that helps. I'll just die. That's all. Maisla, good morning. Good to have you here. Let's see. Why is my chat not scrolling like it should? Okay. I just can't click on the names. Oh, there we go. Now it's working perfectly. At least stick a window AC in that room. The poor electronics don't die. TMB, we might have to do that. Kim Newton, hello. Lee, we're going to have Lee call in eventually here. Maybe even this morning if Lee's up for it. I know it's early, Lee. I know it's early, but if you're available, that might be a good thing before court starts. So Lee's here, rolling with 7. Sharon, good morning to you, Sharon. I can't scroll. This is awful. Roll call is worse this way. Chris Wallace, Britta Aller, Nancy B. According to Woo is here. A and Minnie. Hello. Selena K. Maisla's mom. Good morning, Mayla's mom. Sorry. Added a letter to your name there. Trisha D. Gordon. Sarah Worthrich. Marcia Prill. BB Princess. Kelly J. Paul MC. Oh, look. Somebody just had a Sandy Rascon. 2-month membership message. Congratulations. Love to see that new color by your new color courthouse by your name, Sandy. Thank you for your support of the channel. Let's see. We have Nikki Zeebs. Red Pen is here with Oven Mitts. Kush Queen Katie, 86. Hello. Corey is here as well. Hi. Good to see you as well. Thanks for tagging me. Unholy Saint, 88. Good morning to you. Kathleen Tackett, Corey Herrera, Stacy Lee, Kimbers, Ohio, Rona, Stacy. I think we got you twice, Stacy. Is that all right? Rihanna K. Rihanna? Is that Rihanna or Rianne K? Let's see, a couple more messages. Selena K, for 3 months membership. Hello, friends. Good to have you here. Selena, thank you very much for that. Ashy Snow as well. Also 3-month membership, Mark. Good morning, y'all. Getting morning with a little cuppa. Getting started on your morning. Oh, I cannot talk today. It's a rough one. Chris Carroll, I think I caught you. Polly.
I don't consent to that name.
I usually butcher the name you don't consent to. Debbie Blair, Marsha Prills, Sherry Smith. Hello. I have to catch up. C. Gilmore, Alicia, DMB Secondus. I see you. Shells, Kelly J, Holly, Tricia D, Greeners, Michael, Nan R. It will help put everything into perspective. Now I know why some feel bad for him. I missed the first part of the conversation. Maisla, hello. 6 months. Look at this. Yellow. How exciting for MCAT. Good morning, everyone. Have a great day. MCAT. That looks great. That looks great on your next to your name. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. TLC is me, also member for 5 months. Yay! Love to see those anniversaries rolling around. That is awesome. Let's see. Vivian Anderson from Scotland. Toxic says, consider joining Discord. Yes, this is where we get all our good information. It's from Discord. You guys are great over there. Thank you, Toxic. Lois Cox is here. Kimby, BB Princess, Ashley. Robin Hood, does the goatee mean this is evil, R.A.? No, if I were wearing the black hat. The black hat is the indicator for evil. I have one. I actually have one here, but I'm not wearing it today. I'm the good guy today. Great question. Nikki Zeebs, hey, 3 months here too. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We've got also Bad Juju, member for 3 months. 3-month caller. You're moving up. That looks great, Bad Juju. Thank you very much. Let's see who else we have. Let's see, Alicia, Karen Dietrich, Ashley Snow. True Crime Junkie is here. BBE Cat and Animal Lover. Ashley Snow is late. Aha. Michael from Akron, Ohio. Hello. Pauline, Red Pen. Britt C. Man, so many messages. Oh, wait. This is Selena K. just gifted a membership. Somebody else just turned green. Let's see who that was, if I can scroll down. I can't. My computer will not let me scroll. Why? Maisla also gifted a membership, and we may never know who these went to. You guys might know, but let's see. I can look over here on the other screen. Let's see. Ladybird was gifted a membership by Selena K, and Eva Lanham was gifted a membership by Maisla. Sweet. That is awesome. Let's see. M. Kathy, 3 months. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here. True Crime Junkie, 5 months, 1 more month and a color change. Love you all and this family. Thank you. It would not be the same without you. I appreciate what you do to make this channel what it is. All right. Let's see. I missed a few hands, I think. I'm just scrolling. Rudy Patootie, I see you there. You slipped in just at the last minute. Okay. Went to Ladybird and Eva. Thank you very much, DMB. One day I'll figure out how to use all this hardware. And I'll be able to do it properly. Why can I not get a mouse? It wants to right click and left click at the same time. And I think the fix is like a $10 mouse. Really, that would fix it. I am blurry. That means I have not done this. Hang on. I'll make a nice crisp focus on my beard. Does that work? The problem is I put my mic in front of me and my camera thinks my mic is the person and it focuses on the mic instead of me. Because, technology. I also just noticed I left my mug, as I'm waving my arms around the desk, I left my mug on the desk. And no accidents happened, but it was very close. That is good. I will tell you, just in the time that I poured my water till now, it's so warm in here that the water at the top of the cup was warm, and as you drink it, it gets colder because you're getting down to the colder levels just because, heat rises. Wow, it's going to be a day and a half. Selena K gifted another 5 memberships. Those ones went to JR EPTX, Nana R, Debbie, Renee Alcorn, and Buzz Nevermore. Thank you very much, Selena. That is super generous of you. That is awesome to make somebody's day like that. First thing in the morning. It's a great start. Okay, let's see. Did I miss anybody? I probably did, but I apologize if I did. Let's see. Lee, are you in a place where you could call? Lego My Briefs, I see you. There we go. Missed third time's the charm. Kim R. I love the new name. Now I can tell it's Kim instead of KR. You did a great job with the internet yesterday, by the way. Fantastic. Appreciate that. Let's see. TC was there. Betty Duran. Alfred Rosler. The water bottle I poured the water out of is expanding and crackling in the background as it heats up to room temperature. Oh, it's hot. Weather Watch. Good morning, Thomas. Hope you have a fantastic day. I'm not sure if Matthew Harris is going to make it in today. I'm not sure what it is about this week, but it is just whooping his butt. Work is just all over the place for him. So if you see him, just give him a nice, gentle hug, pat on the back, and say, "Man, you can make it through whatever this is." It's been a rough week for him. So hopefully he's got some big wins in court at the end of it. Smoky Sky, good to have you here. Heidi as well. Betty Duran, I see you. Let's see. Anybody else? MCAT. Neezy, I missed my peeps. Java Jive is here. Good morning to you. Let's see. Here's a lot. Pickle Pusher. How did I miss this one? You raised your hand like 10 times. You raised all your fingers. Stovetop Stew is here as well. Good morning. Thank you very much. I think we have Lee calling in. Let's see.
Call from
Lee.
We do. Lee, my friend, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
That is wonderful. You, I just did, by way of introduction, in case somebody didn't notice in chat, you and Shells, Lee and Shells, are two of our great addicts that are also court watchers. Did some court watching yesterday, but it was not in the case we're following. It's in another very interesting case that's working its way through the system, and that's the case of Karen Reed. Do you want to give just a quick synopsis of that case for those who may not be following that fascinating case?
Okay, so this is a case of a Boston police officer named John O'Keefe who was found dead in the front yard in February. I don't remember, this is 2 or 3 years ago. And his girlfriend is accused of killing him by hitting him with her car. This was at a house of Brian Albert, which was filled with police officers who had been out drinking all night and then went to their house and continued drinking, it sounds like. I think the basic prosecution theory is that, she says she dropped him off. She was dropping him off at the house. She wasn't going into the party. Mm-hmm. And the prosecution's theory is that she hit him with the car, like, I don't know whether when she was turning around, but he was something like 12 to 15 feet off the road, and it was snowy, so I'm not quite sure how she hit him hard enough in a three-point turn to launch him 15 points, but...
Yeah.
But anyways, the reason the case is interesting is that the theory is really fishy, and it seems like there's cover-up going on. The wounds on his body don't match.
And by wounds, you're saying the
collision.
dog bites, right?
Yeah, he's got defensive puncture wounds on his forearms that look exactly like dog bites. And the homeowner host had a German Shepherd, but that was moved out of state soon after this incident, and
house was sold.
Basement carpeting was removed, and nothing was investigated at the time because they're all cops, so you don't investigate cops. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, this of all cases, this one looks like a setup, like they're
sure
trying to
does.
pin something on someone, and defense is as fiery as all get out. They're throwing everything at the fan. They're saying, hey, we've asked for this evidence. You won't release the video camera evidence that will show that her taillight was not broken. In this, they're chasing down the dog route. They're trying to say, why did you change the carpet? They're going every possible way, and this will be very interesting. If this was a cover up, there's a good chance that many people were involved in it or knew about it and are not saying anything.
But it's going to be challenging because the prosecution and the investigators aren't investigating any of the cover up, so it's it's all on the defense, and I don't know how much. I don't know, any motion type things are going to come into this, and they won't even, I don't know how much the defense's hands will be tied bringing up some of these alternate theories and stuff. So it's going to be
interesting. So yesterday you were in court in that case, and Karen Reed is the defendant. Actually, you sent some pictures of them exiting court in the news there, and you guys right in the background, which is awesome. I saw those. What was the hearing about yesterday, and can you tell us anything about the schedule going forward?
Yeah, so part of the reason we went, there was also a huge rally out front organized by this YouTuber guy named Turtle Boy Aiden. He's sort of been crusading for Karen Reed. So there were, I don't know, more than 100 people out front and honking, cars honking as they go by and everything. So we didn't stick around for the rally because we wanted to make sure we got into the courtroom because we figured it was going to be crowded. Anyways, the hearing was mostly about two motions. One was by the defense. They had filed a few weeks ago to have the judge recuse herself because there's allegations. So it's alleged that this guy, Colin McCabe, who is he's a relative of one of the police officers who was in the house. Mm-hmm. And there's some allegations that he had said to some reporter that the judge was in their control, and he had been to her beach house, and he threatened someone. He threatened someone that they're going to bury them in her beach house backyard or something. So there's some allegations of the connection between people there and the judge. That was one of the allegations. Another one was, I think someone else associated with that side had stayed in the judge's beach house and
oh my goodness,
like as an Airbnb and paid with Venmo or something.
Even if it's not illegal, the optics of this looks so bad.
And that was the whole, and so they gave a pretty fiery argument on this. Probably lasted 15, 20 minutes, and exactly that. It's not even, the standard isn't can you be impartial, it's can you appear to be impartial? Like, it's the perceptions that matter to the public.
Yeah. Wow.
They gave a pretty fiery argument. She took a 20-minute recess to go rule. She was probably playing Candy Crush or something, is our guess. We're being a little cynical here, I guess.
Yeah.
But she came back and said, I consider all the points, and they're all factually wrong. I don't know these people.
None of them stayed in my beach house. That was not my Venmo.
Yeah,
Just denial, flat denial all across the board.
Yeah, and then she asked I think she asked the defense team, were they going to appeal this? I think they, or how long do you need to appeal this?
Mm-hmm.
I think they may have punted for now. I think they're considering their options, but I don't know. I mean, if it ever comes out that she actually does know these people,
oh my goodness,
that'd be really bad.
It would go bad very quickly.
I
Where is this case happening again? What's the location?
This is happening in Dedham, Massachusetts,
Okay.
and the actual event happened in Canton, which I think is a neighboring town.
Yeah.
The second motion was prosecution had filed requesting a gag order, basically forbidding
anybody from
extrajudicial sharing of information.
It's very damaging to their case. It's interesting that the
Exactly.
prosecution's doing this.
The other sort of secondary defense guy, Yannetti, I think his name is, he gave a really strong, passionate argument, including he opened it up with some long statement, and he's like, this isn't my argument, this is, Justice Kennedy on the Supreme Court's argument that basically, attorneys should be allowed to counter in public what the public perception is being affected by the other side as well.
That's strong, quoting the Supreme Court in your open. So
yeah.
Like just,
I thought it was really
when
well
we
done.
appeal, it eventually goes to this level, right? So it's like, let me just tell you how they feel right now as we get started.
And then Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say this sounds like a fascinating case. It's one we've followed in the news a little bit. It's been amazing. The defense has been very vocal in the press, sharing all sorts of things, and I can see why the prosecution is like, we need a gag order. But
the prosecutor got up and said, "Oh, well, we're not sharing anything." But the defense is like, "Well, that's not really true." When Karen Reed was arrested, the Boston police chief got up and basically said she was guilty and all kinds, threw her under the bus and stuff. So it's anyway. So they argued, and the judge didn't decide yet. They're going to take it under advisement and rule in the future. It sounds like the next hearing is mid-September.
Okay.
I think they're aiming for the case to start in like early November.
Okay.
Of course, right on top of everything else.
Yeah. So basically, everything important is going to happen right at the same time this year. So
but the other thing the last thing they argued or discussed was the defense is still waiting for tons of evidence.
Yes, they've requested it. They've been ordered to turn it over, and they have not received it, and they're still not.
Yeah, and then the judge is like asking the prosecutor, "Well, what's the status of this?" He's like, "Oh, well, 2 weeks ago I called the crime lab, and the guy was on vacation."
Yeah, excuse after excuse.
And I have everything back. It's like, that's 2 weeks ago. Did you call since? And she didn't answer that. But but the defense is just like, I think the prosecution is not, the state is not asking for testing as much testing as defense wants. So defense wants access to the material so they can run their own tests.
Yeah, I think.
So I have a feeling this is going to drag out, and the court date will probably slip. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I wonder if this might result in them just dropping the charges instead of revealing some. If it gets to the point where there's an obvious cover up, and if they move forward, it would reveal that. I wonder if they just drop the charges.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because there's a video they're trying to get. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the one last little tidbit was more related to us. When we walked into the courtroom, we were one of the sort of fairly early getting in there, probably behind some family people. We weren't sure what side to sit on, so we guessed, and it turns out we guessed wrong.
Oh no!
So we were on the, and then all of a sudden, all these like cops start showing up around us to sit on.
So
and this one,
you were sitting
this one guy, who's Carl Dougal, sat down next to Shelley and was like glaring at her. He's like, "You don't belong here. You're not for John O'Keefe." I don't even know how we knew that, because we weren't wearing, any Karen Reed stuff or anything. But
wow,
he's like, "You need to go on the other side."
Like,
and we did. And as we were going over there, Shell says to him, "You don't have to be so rude." And then he was glaring at her and glared at us most of the hearing whenever he looked over our direction.
Is he an officer?
Funny.
Is he an officer?
Yeah, he's a Boston police officer. Wow. He's a Boston police investigator.
Unfortunately,
he's kind of a bully.
A traffic ticket is in your future, unfortunately. It sounds like.
We cannot go to Boston.
Lee, thank you very much. This is one trial where we definitely have our ear to the ground. We're listening. We want to see as this progresses. Hopefully, we get the ability to cover this trial. And if so, I'd love it if you're able to make it there for that as well. So, thank you.
Yep, we'll
Thank you very much for the update. Tell Shells hello as well. I know she did half the work for what you just did as well.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you so much, Lee. Have yourself a fabulous morning. Appreciate it.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Lee and Shells are absolutely great court watchers. We've had them appear in court and watch for us as well. Unholy Saint, I forgot to call this out when this came through, gifted 5 memberships as well. Thank you very much. And Gail Pett comes in with a 5-month membership anniversary message. It was my lucky day to stumble across this guy sitting in what seemed to be an empty courtroom talking about the Murdaugh trial. Best group ever. Gail, thank you very much. Good to have you here. Would not be the same without you as well. The Karen Reed trial, this is interesting. There's a lot out there in the press, and it still is going to take some time to get to trial. But what a great merch idea. Seat is great for an RA Raider shirt. Oh, yes, because usually when you go to court, you can't have blatant supporting one side or the other. But if we could do something very subtle, like the exclamation point seat, just on the shirt. That's everyone who knows. It's one of those if you know you know type things. That sounds like an awesome thing. We'll need some design ideas for that. Ryan Applesnapple, one of the other court watchers, who has helped us out here. Let's see. I was trying to see what you're saying here. Oh, he purchased a mug! Yay! Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do have to apologize. I don't actually ship them out directly. They come straight from I'm not involved in the shipping. They come straight from the manufacturer who, glazes them and everything. And sometimes they're not as prompt as I wish they were. So if for some reason you've ordered one and you have not received it, I can chase it down and knock some heads together and get that going. Sometimes they get stuck at different points, but if for any point with any merchandise you purchase from me, if you have ordered something and have not seen it, reach out to me on the burner phone. Just say, hey, this is my order I ordered here, and we'll find it and we'll get that sorted out. I don't want anyone to be disappointed about the merchandise. Let's see, where are we at on trial? I think we are about 45 minutes before court begins in Texas. See, still no feed yet from Texas, so that's cool. Would you want a seat shirt? Is that something that would have my Alyssa shirt on under my button shirt? Ryan, yes, you had your I saw the picture of you. It was like a Superman reveal. This is what I'm wearing underneath. So that was really cool. Let's see. Yes to the seat shirt. Okay, we'll let's put our heads together and find a good design. And do you want it in varying colors and options and everything? I was on early, Kim. I think one of my mods outed me. I do wake up usually about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I promptly get out of bed by 6. That's usually the first hour is on the phone checking various and sundry emails and messages and trying to get things squared away that I'm not able to do during the live stream. So if you email me and I don't respond till 5 o'clock in the morning, that's why. But that's good. Anyway, so let's see. Sounds good. P.S. Brandy Churchwell uses a seat. Yes, she does. It would be. We have a lot of crossover, so it would work for both if you were a court watcher for her as well. And I would not be offended in the least if she were to co-opt that. I really do like Brandy. Different style. She'll follow different court cases than we will, but she has some incredible skills. I think this was, she's made for this, and she's awesome. I was actually talking to her a couple days ago, and we may actually do a joint stream here in just a little bit. It's funny if the schedules align and we don't have court cases, we want to do something together, but we might also have her on, I don't know, at another time. I don't want to reveal too much. So we can be pre-chatting at 5 a.m. We probably could. The late shirt should be in red. I do think a shirt with all the commands or some of the sayings that are triggerable would be important to do, and I've actually been working on that. Instead of a exclamation point, use a gavel and seat. That's a good idea. Let's see. I saw that she made a move like Letitia with her hands. You guys talking about shabusiness. She did some hand gestures when the jury was not in, and she was looking forward possibly at the judge, and one of them was like this, or it was more like that. Which I don't know what that means. Is that like all systems go, or is that ready aim? Your call. Purple, please. We need purple. We'll work on the purple for the shirts. We need a seat shirt and a shirt that just says Recover Addict. Plain front, nothing else. Let people wonder. So Recover Addict on the back, like the name on a football jersey. Is that what you're saying, Red Pen? Because I'll tell you, you guys have asked for this a lot of times, and I feel weird just having Recovery Addict on there. I thought it would be better with a picture. It just seems strange to sell something that has my YouTube name on it and nothing else. I don't know. If you want it, we can make it. Yes. Okay, we'll do that. So let me have my assistant put this down. Hey Siri, remind me to make the Recovery Addict and exclamation point seat shirt today at 5 p.m.
Okay, I added it.
There we go. So I'll get the reminder at the end of court today. We'll do this. Pickle shirts. We all know your pickle addiction. Yes, but not everyone shares my pickle addiction, which I don't understand. First of all, what's wrong with you people that don't like pickles? But I think something that would more say court would be appropriate, or true crime. Hoodies too, please. We have a couple hoodies up. If you'd like something different, if you just want a hoodie, I guess we can do a hoodie with Recovery Addict on the shoulder, on the back, and nothing on the front. Or maybe just seat on the front. I don't know. Is the idea behind this trial that the woman may have tricked Lopez to shoot the husband versus Lopez just jealous? Ed, yes. That is exactly what the defense is trying to say. Defense says this was someone who first of all suffers from PTSD, who sees threats differently because of his traumatic brain injury, because of his service in Korea and Iraq, and because of that, when he was fed what were essentially lies about the situation that Jennifer was in, he decided to take action to protect Jennifer. That's how the defense is spinning this. Now, I realize there's a million different times and waypoints and gas stations and payphones and everything else he could have stopped at and made a call to the police instead of trying to take these matters into his own hands. So I don't see the defense theory getting him off the hook entirely, but I do see the possibility, just from what I see in chat, and if we are representative of what the jury is, I do see the possibility that the jury would say, I feel sorry for him. He was tricked into this, and thus maybe not the maximum penalty, not life in prison without parole. I don't think they've put the death penalty officially on the table, but I don't think it's also officially off. Yeah, so. Yeah, fun. Waiting for all our connections to work properly. Okay. That's not it. Okay, still waiting. Recovery Addict is a very positive message for so many reasons. It does. It does. Recovery is important. Life is all about making mistakes and picking ourselves back up and starting again. And being addicted to that process is a good thing. Let's see. Take your seat. So perhaps it should be that with RA below or above. I think we're going to go with the plain Recovery Addict. I'm going to try to. My problem is if I go to Baskin Robbins, the ice cream store that has 31 flavors of ice cream, I can never choose. And it's worse when I'm trying to design an item of merchandise where I have 200 fonts to choose from. So let me know what font. I don't really have an official font for the channel that I use, but we'll see.
Thanks for all you do, and for allowing us this outlet we also very much need. You are very much appreciated. Smiling face with hearts, 100-point symbol, 100-point symbol.
A and Minnie, thank you so much. Appreciate the super chat and the kind words as well. This channel, I am one part of the channel, and you are also a big part of the channel. It would not be the same without you. Thank you all for that. I appreciate you, A and Minnie, as well for the super chat specifically. Let's see. I think we're going to do, as far as other merchandise that is coming up, I think a word art display where there's different fonts and angles and it runs every which direction, using all the commands that are on the channel as well as some of the sayings. I think if we can get it to look good, we'll do that as well. I just realized that I told nearly everyone else good morning except for the star of the show. Good morning, Recover Addict. Matthew Harris, good to have you here. I hope your week goes better. We've already wished that you get a major win in court, assuming one is coming up for you, a ruling. I heard you had just a crazy week work-related. So put the rainbow courthouses under the words Recover Addict, and that'll make them wonder even more. Yeah, all the courthouses in a row. That is a funny idea, Red Pen. That I like that idea. It was the second stream during Brooks' trial that Recover Addict was settled on as the channel's name. It was way back there, Last Poet. It's fun to remember that long ago. Many months. 9. Is it almost 10 months ago? It's a long time. Let's see. Paul MC says, "RA, I was telling Red about a case similar to this in Southwest MO 015. Young woman convinced a young guy's on the internet to kill her mom. No money exchanged. She pled for 10 years and he got life." Yes, this is unfortunately not a new story. You know, Hollywood just makes the same movies over and over, and sometimes in crime we see the same set of facts replay with new characters, with new actors. We're designing some merch, specifically some shirts, I think. Let's see. No, I'm jealous of all those yellow courthouses. I lost mine. Carolyn, make sure your gift setting is turned on. They just find their way to come back. It just happens. This is an amazing community that way. But wow, look at the screen here. Amber, Samantha, DMB, Red Pen, lots of yellow courthouses. It is so much fun to see how much this channel has just exploded a little bit beyond my wildest dreams, honestly. Ashley just gifted a membership, and that one went to Nursey Dog Mom. I don't know how YouTube chooses this, but Nursey just barely came in to take a seat, which is reserved for members, and now you can do it again, and it will work. So there you go. We are the OGs. All right, waiting for a feed from court. Where we're at right now, first of all, the first day in court was a whirlwind, honestly. It was crazy fast. We had opening statements take place. First of all, the judge is succinct. Anything he says is pretty quick. Even his oath that he swears somebody in is like, "Do you promise to tell the truth?" "All right, take your seat." That was it. It's the shortest oath we have ever heard. Amy H51 had just gifted memberships to Samantha Stevens, Amber, Kimberly Elms, Rosebud, and Victoria S. Sorry, I read Amber's name as gifted a membership while I was clicking on Amy's gift. I got them mixed up. But thank you so much, Amy. You are a huge supporter of the channel. Appreciate what you do for the channel as well as all these amazing, amazing addicts. So judge is very quick. There's no long, drawn-out explanations. The court seems to be running on a pretty good schedule. Not a lot of delays. Even the sidebars and the rulings happen very quickly, and the judge also doesn't seem inclined to excuse the jury frequently in case something comes up. So that may happen a little bit later on as we get into evidence that the defense is more inclined to fight, specifically anything that might go against their theory of the defense. But as far as it's just evidence of the crime. Defense has just not objected to anything. They're allowing everything in, so there's not a lot of argument there. So we're really moving through a lot of testimony. Even on the cross-examinations, they're quite limited, almost not really useful. I mean, what they're asking is like, oh, so you did all this investigation. Oh, that's cool. Thanks. No further questions. They're just allowing all this evidence to just come in and stack up because they're not in there saying he didn't do it. They are saying not guilty, but they're not saying he didn't do it. They say, who was it that said this? They're using the white knight defense. They're like, he's the good guy, that what he did was actually, he thought in his mind that the situation that she was in, he was rescuing her. And although it doesn't make it right, it is still wrong. They're saying because of that, find him not guilty, because he was trying to do what he thought in his mind was because he's the guy, what he thought was right. So it's an interesting. Yes, so far so good, Rudy. We're doing great. I'm choosing my words carefully. We're great, but thank you very much. I also appreciate that even though this trial has a lot of in the evidence, it has a lot of salacious material involving texting that goes back and forth between the defendant and the convicted defendant, meaning Jennifer, who's serving already life in prison without parole. She took a plea deal to get the death penalty off the table. There was 122,000 communications back and forth, and many of them were sexual in nature. So it's great to see the court. They did present them and say this is what they are, acknowledge this is the nature, and then we moved on. And it was and so hopefully we can just move on beyond that. I think they may have to broach the subject again as they need to. I think the prosecution feels the need to lay out the story and show that this was a fantasy that these two were both engaged in, which they haven't really done, even though they've said that in the very beginning. So I think we are going to, get to the sketchy part again, but hopefully they treat it the same way they treated it the first time, and just it wasn't a deep dive into all the salacious material. Corn Dog with Green Courthouse says, thanks, RA, favorite stream and chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here and appreciate your support. Would not be the same without you, Corn Dog. When I signed it today, my ad was Dr. Berg, whom I happen to love. Wonderful. I hope you skipped it anyway. No, just kidding. I try to make all the ads skippable, because I don't think anybody should have to wait and watch. And that's also why I put the little pause at the beginning of the live stream, because I found out that if I just start the live stream and start talking, the ad covers up some of that, and you just pick up where it left off. And I'd hate for that to cut part of something off that you wanted to hear. So, and some people say, I just love the intro music. So I try to give you at least 5 seconds of just like a buffer with just an image on the screen before I actually start the video. The whole defense is not that he didn't do it. It's like you say, RA, just to a lesser degree of murder or perhaps less time served. Yeah, they're definitely shooting for a lesser included on this. Well, they're shooting for not guilty, but that's like hitting the moon. I just don't see. I don't see with all this evidence of him committing the crime, and it basically meets all the elements of the charge. I don't see how the jury can come back and say not guilty. Okay, that would also feel just wrong. You're saying he didn't do it. They've proved he did it. That's all there. But I think they're going to look at that and say, yes, he did it, but the circumstances warrant a different outcome than perhaps what one might think with just looking at the elements of the charge being met. Mixed feelings about Darren. I do as well. I don't know the extent of his traumatic brain injury. I don't know the extent of his PTSD, and honestly, I don't think any of us really will. I think defense will present that in their evidence portion of the trial. But it seems believable that his thought process post-war, post-serving in the military and getting injured there, was different than pre-service. It changed him, and in a way that Jennifer was able to manipulate. That seems to seem true to me. I know what he did, but he seems so sympathetic when you see him. Yeah, and it's helping, Rudy. Look at the way he's behaving. He's standing at attention, literally. Every time he stands up, you see the army in him. It oozes out of him, right? Lee that was speaking, he have a channel? Golden Mare, I'm not sure. I don't think Lee has a YouTube channel yet. If he does, he hasn't shared it with me. But it would be awesome if they did. Lee and Shells both. The dynamic duo. Okay. Yesterday also, if you missed that, we had a little homework assignment, a team homework assignment. It's like a group project where we opened a Google Doc and crowdsourced a letter to Sarah Boone. The letter will not be sent in its current form to Sarah Boone. That's not going to happen. But we are going to take elements of the letter and ideas that were included in there, and I am going to write to her because I do think after her case is over, I think it's important that it's after, that if she has the desire to reach out, I would be interested in interviewing her just to see. I think, first of all, when the trial is over, she's going to feel like she wasn't heard. Even if she testifies, even if it takes 3 days to testify, she's going to feel like her voice was not heard, that nobody listened to her. And I would like to hear what she has to say when someone else isn't controlling the questions. When we give her an opportunity and say, okay, so, I'll be quiet. You help me understand what you're thinking. Because I honestly think she believes that she believes what she's saying, that she should not be found guilty. Ashley, did you end up starving last night, or did you cook something up? I had the same thing I had for lunch because, I'm a vanilla guy like that. If you have vanilla ice cream once, you probably know it's going to be good the next time as well. So I had more Chinese, made it a little bit differently. But this morning, I'll tell you, Ashley, this morning for breakfast, because I wanted to be healthy and wanted to really, change up my, a little variety in the schedule. I got out some peaches, and I got some dairy in the form of ice cream, and I made myself a milkshake, and it was delicious. Morning milkshake. It was. I think that's healthy, right? Dairy and fruit. Don't think the girl should have pled out, Mike. They gave her a deal, and honestly, she had done a lot of hiding evidence that probably would have made it difficult to prove the full charge against her. But I'm sure we know it. We do have a feed from the courtroom now. It's quiet. There's nothing on. It's just right here. But we're keeping an eye on that. The audio's turned on in case that happens. So when court begins, we're going to jump to that. Let's see. Sarah loves her fans. She does. Let's see. If your videos are on YouTube, technically it's a channel. So Lee, I think you have a channel if you have video. I have random iRacing videos. I wouldn't call it a channel by any stretch of imagination. I'm a big fan of people who are interested in YouTube starting a channel. Just because if there's something out there, if there's a hobby, if there's a skill set, an area of history you like to study or anything, whatever it is, whatever that niche or niche, however you pronounce that, is there's probably, you're not the only one, right? There's probably another group of people out there who are looking for additional information, and some of them have far less information in that field than you do. So if you're into crocheting and you know all the different styles and where to get the best patterns and some of the amazing techniques that can give you just incredible, results, sharing that on YouTube, some people would be like, this is what I've been looking for. I've been trying to learn this. I need to watch somebody do this so I can understand. And it's one thing to learn from a book. It's another to learn from, somebody who's doing it on TV. I highly suggest that you guys think about starting a YouTube channel, even something simple with just a phone and a video, and then work your way up if you like it. Peter, the lawyer did a good stream at the last letter. Yes, Nursey Dog Bomb. I was on that live stream. I actually was the one that told him the letter had dropped, and he put my chat up on screen for a little bit. How long did she get? A and Minnie, talking about Jennifer in this case, the wife of the decedent. She got life in prison without parole, so she will not be getting out. And she did that to avoid the death penalty. Baby Bear, welcome. I could not remember your name for the life of me yesterday. I knew it had bear in it, but I couldn't remember. But Baby Bear sent me some good spicy jalapenos, some spicy food. It was really good. delicious. Thank you for those. Okay. The great piece on getting cake for breakfast, Father of the Year, has eggs, milks, etc. I remember that. It's unfortunately his star has fallen, but she urged and facilitated the murder by lying. I hope she does life. She does have life. She's convicted already. So now we're going after the trigger man, so to speak. Baby, missed you've been cheating with Brandy. It's not cheating when you go over to one of our friends. That's awesome. Brandy's amazing. I crochet, but I'm left-handed, so I can only teach lefties. Maisla. Here's the amazing secret about this. In video editing, you can actually flip the image horizontally, and suddenly you're using your right hand. It's that easy. It's like magic. I can write with my right hand, but then the words look backwards. Okay, I think we are getting set. We've got 23 minutes before court. The judge has asked people to be in the courtroom a little bit early. I think if they're all there early, they'll start early. Honestly, this judge seems to like short breaks. He only gives us 45 minutes for lunch, for starters. He does have a 15-minute break about 2 hours in, then lunch, and then another 15-minute break and a couple more hours of trial. It seems to be his schedule, but he likes to end early during the day. Can someone give me a quick recap of yesterday afternoon? I had to stop watching after I introduced the letter as evidence because I was at work. The letter, let me just show you here. The letter I think you're talking about, let's see, that was this one right here. The letter. This letter was written from this is from Jennifer to the defendant. And notice no names, and there are some numbers. Hi, 575. Just a quick note to say I never lied. Here, I go full screen here. I never lied to you, and I never sent you emails from any account but mine as me. You once said you would never believe anything about me unless you heard it from me. I hope it's still true. There's a ton more I wish I could say, but I can't right now, so soon, hopefully. If you want to respond, you can write back to the address on the envelope. Your cousin Tony never sent the letter you wrote, only said he got one, so don't go through him anymore. 381, still, now, and forever, Angel. And Angel is drawn out. So that was the letter that you're talking about, Milo. This letter was written, I believe, while she was in custody, and this was after she had admitted to the police that she lied to Darren. So she tells the police she's lied, and then she turns around and tells Darren that she hasn't lied, that this is, don't believe anything you hear. They're lying to you. So she was still leading him on. That was an interesting moment that really, I think, helped the defense a ton to show that letter and say, look, this was a continuation of her plan.
An accident.
A little bit of audio, just testing the audio as they're talking in the courtroom. Hot mic for just a second. Yes, that was the letter with the angel picture and everything. The angel was, the significance of the angel is that was the nickname Darren had for Jennifer during high school and I guess into college when they were dating. He would call her Angel, and he used that as a code word when they connected again after like 30 some odd years. To say, she's like, how do I know it's really you? And he's like, would it help if I called you Angel? And she's like, oh, it is you. You knew the code word. And then they also have these numbers. The 575 at the beginning was what she would use as a code to signify that that the message he was getting was from her. And then she would end with 381, which I believe stands for I love you. 3 words, 8 letters, 1. I don't know. I don't know what 381 is. It didn't make sense to me. 3 words, 8 letters, 1 meaning. I love you. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Amber, for that. I thought 1 was 1 word as well, but 1 meaning. Is there like a song about that? It sounds like a. I'm not saying that the country music is sappy, but it sounds like there's a sappy love song out there that has 381 in it. New documents dropped on the Long Island serial killer in Discord and everything true crime related. Samantha Terry, that's awesome. If you want to check that out, there's the link for Discord. That is a new link that'll get you there. Ari, do you think lead detective who was missing WhatsApp chat in his binder will be back today? I'd like to see him back, Carolyn. You're speaking about the detective. This was the detective with the binder, the binder. It was like the binder to beat all binders, the one binder to rule them all. It was huge. It was massive, and according to him, it had everything in the case about it. And you saw the setup. It actually played out in a fascinating way from the defense. I thought it was very smart. But defense asked questions about his binder on cross, and instead of like challenging any of his investigation or anything, they're like, "So everything is in your binder. You're all good, you know." And he's like, "Yep, everything. This is the entire case. I have everything in here. I supervised it. That's why I have it. It's my binder of this case." And then they're like, "All right, no further questions." And they passed it back to the prosecution. I think they knew that something they had said earlier, one of the questions, would goad the prosecution into asking another question to clarify something. And they did, which then just laid the stage for them to come back with this letter. Because it was on recross that they brought up this WhatsApp communications. And it's like, "Oh, can you find this in there? Have you seen this before?" And he's like, "I've never seen it. I've never seen that they were communicating on WhatsApp," which is a chat application that allows you to communicate in I believe an encrypted. I think it's encrypted. It's basically harder to track. I think it is encrypted. I'll have to double check that. I don't know. Is it Signal? I forget which one is encrypted. Will you read our letter to Sarah Boone again today in case people missed yesterday? Mary, we'll have to go back and watch the original. It was a lot of fun. It's 7 pages long. If you want to watch the original one, that video is up now. Check the burner for a mock-up hoodie shirt. Red Pen, I will do that. Let's see. There's the image right there. Oh, looks great. I'll tweak that, and I like that. I like the courthouse. The rainbow will throw everybody off. It's great. All right. Let's see. All right. The 48 Hours episode will blow your mind if you watch it. I suggested a paragraph for the Sarah Boone letter. Is it too late to consider it? It was about 3 hours ago. Maisla, was it on the... I could open up the letter one more time. Do we have a saved copy? Let's see, let me just check one more time. I can see a couple people in here still watching it. Let's see, who do we have in here? Maisla, do you guys still have the link? Let me know if you still have the link. If you do, it's on the Google Doc. Okay, let me just allow you guys to edit again if you already have the link. I'm not going to open it up to the whole world again because it just gets crazy. But there you go. It should have you access 7 pages of loveliness. The defense would have to call the detective. Yes, defense can call him, but they can recall him. The judge has put that out there already. WhatsApp cannot and does not produce the content of its users' messages in response to government requests. Adam, I believe the cannot is what's important, because if they could, the judge would order it, and they would have to. I mean, they could literally be facing all sorts of penalties if they don't. Okay, we're getting close to court starting. It was the most epicest letter ever. Oh, I can hear the song in my head now. Okay, how do we just keep reading letters? How long do we just keep reading letters before a trial starts? Evangeline Light. Are you talking about Sarah Boone's? How long are we going to have letters? Or are you saying, how about we just read the letter over and over until the trial starts? Okay. I do appreciate all those who click the like button. It does good on the channel. It honestly, the algorithm reminds people who have been here before. And the more people that click like or share or subscribe, it does more reminders to people, and we end up finding friends that have found us before and maybe found something else that distracted them on YouTube, and they find their way back, and that's awesome. I appreciate that. Particularly for me, it's amazing when you guys click the subscribe button. It shows me that you want to hear more or see more. Oh, there's the judge. See more of what we're doing, and that's awesome. Oh, judge walked in, turned around, walked out. He is not going to handle this today. Wait, start again. Fresh start. He wanted a dramatic entrance, and he'd come in too close. Whoa, we're beginning. Look at that. It's 9:46, and they're ready to go. He's back.
If you will bring the jury. Bring the jury.
See, Adam, you triggered that right as I hit the same button. Wish I could send the Boone letter by audio with music in the background. I could send her a link to it. I don't think she would appreciate that. I will say that if I'm on the phone with her, I will be much more.
Sheriff, y'all may be seated. Members of the jury, good morning. Thank you all for being here on time and actually quite a bit early. We're going to get started early today, and I appreciate that. Is the state ready this morning?
Yes, Your Honor, state's ready.
And the defense?
Defense is ready, Your Honor.
Very good. Members of the jury, you'll recall that we're in the state's case in chief. Ms. Mitchell, call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, state calls April Kendrick.
April Kendrick's first witness of day 2.
Before you have a seat, could you please turn and face me and raise your hand?
Lots of yellow in the courtroom.
About to give will be the truth.
I do.
Please have a seat. You're responding to questions from Ms. Mitchell, perhaps also Mr. Sanchez or Mr. Duke to your left. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is April Kendrick, APRILKENDRICK.
And Ms. Kendrick, for whom do you work?
I work for the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences, which is also known as SWIFTS, or the Dallas County Crime Lab.
Okay, and the Dallas County Crime Lab, what you just generally tell the jury what goes on there?
Okay, we are a full-service, fee-for-service laboratory that we house the medical examiner within our facility, as well as a physical evidence section, which includes the firearm and toolmark unit, the forensic biology section, and trace evidence, as well as a forensic chemistry unit that houses the drug laboratory, toxicology, and breath alcohol.
Okay, so we're talking about DNA and blood and serology, drugs, and the medical examiner and autopsy, as well as firearm analysis. That all is there under that roof.
Yes.
And you said it is a for-fee lab, so it's not just Dallas County that can use this lab, correct? Anyone can pay to have any kind of testing done.
That's correct.
Okay. And what do you do specifically at SWIFTS?
I am the supervisor of the firearm and toolmark unit.
All right, and what does the firearm and toolmark unit do?
The firearm and toolmark unit generally examines firearms to determine if they are mechanically functional and safe to fire. We also evaluate ammunition and ammunition components, which would include fired bullets and fired cartridge cases. We also perform serial number restorations on firearms or other items of evidence that may have had the serial number removed. I perform range of fire analysis, which is a way to determine distances between the front end of a firearm and a clothing item when a shot is fired. I perform fracture matches and also provide expert witness testimony.
Okay. And basically you can do some sort of testing that will test whether a fired cartridge casing or a projectile or a fired bullet potentially came from a particular firearm. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
The judge has already said they don't have to ask.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 167. Do you recognize this document?
Who's this gentleman? Look at the back row is reserved for media.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And this is just your report and your conclusions. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you actually made this report?
I did.
And you did the analysis?
I did.
Okay. And it's in your custody, this report?
Yes.
The original, is that correct?
Yes, the original is actually in our electronic laboratory information management system, but
generally,
yes.
All right. At this time, I'd like to offer to evidence State's Exhibit 167, the firearms report from April Kendrick. For all purposes, Your Honor.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
It's admitted. You may publish.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Kendrick, let's just get right into it. In your report, it's fairly simple. To use the screen over here, so I'm not sure why that screen's not coming up, but we'll go ahead and get started. Can you see the screen, Ms. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on one second. Can you click on that?
The other screen has to work because Darren has the right to see this display as well. They'll get it working. Just plug in the HDMI. And 1:15. Yeah. Looking at the weather report across the U.S.
We'll just have to go without. We'll try to get somebody.
Okay.
Members of the jury, you'll have to probably look at that one.
The jury can't see.
That one right there. Go ahead, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Kendrick, we have your report. You go ahead and start with just evidence submitted. Can you just tell the jury quickly what was submitted to you by Dallas Police Department?
Yes, the items that were submitted by Dallas Police Department include a manila envelope, a gun, a magazine, 2 additional manila envelopes, and then submitted by the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office were 5 projectiles from autopsy.
Okay. Not all of this was tested. Some of it was tested, and we'll get to that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And next you have the testing performed. So well, I guess let's go to page number 2. No, before we get to page number 2, what was the evidence that you ended up testing?
I examined the gun, the magazine, and of that list of projectiles from autopsy, it's item 5.7, 5.8, and 5.9.
All right. And the testing performed, can you go ahead and just tell the jury what was the testing that you performed?
The testing that I performed was a mechanical evaluation of the firearm to determine if it was functional and safe to fire. And then during that examination, I also determined the class characteristics of that firearm, and that would include things such as the caliber. So I'm sure that you're familiar with caliber, whether it's a .45 auto or a 9mm Luger. And then there are some other features that I would establish by my examination of the firearm as well. For the projectiles, I examined those also, and again determined some of those features, caliber and rifling characteristics of the firearm that would have fired them.
Let me pause you there. As far as the projectiles from the autopsy, so we're clear, these are literally bullets collected from the body.
Correct.
Okay. Projectiles from the autopsy, bullets taken from the body of James Faith Jr., correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and when you talk about rifling, what do you mean can you explain to the jury quickly what you mean by that?
Yes. So within the barrel of the firearm, and the barrel is the part that the bullet comes out of, there is something known as rifling, and it's just a series of raised and lowered areas that twist either to the left or to the right. That causes the bullet to spin so that when it leaves the firearm, it's flying straight. It's similar to putting a spin on a football. When you throw the football, there's a spin on the football, so it flies straight. The same would be true of the rifling in a firearm. And when a bullet passes through that barrel, the rifling is impressed or basically scratched onto the bullets that go through that firearm.
And these are some of the characteristics that you're comparing, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then can you go ahead and tell the jury continue on the testing that you performed?
So after I've established those features of the firearm and the features, or we call them class characteristics, of the fired projectiles, if they are the same, then I perform a microscopic comparison of little tiny patterns on the fired bullets collected from autopsy to test fired bullets that I created with that firearm.
All right. And this is what we have here on page 2 of your report, suitability and your microscopic comparison.
That's correct.
Okay. Then you move into blind verification. What is the blind verification?
For every comparison that I perform on the microscope, there is a second examiner that performs those same comparisons without knowledge of what my conclusions were in those comparisons. So after I finish the comparisons, the second examiner will have the evidence transferred to them. They will perform those same comparisons, come to their own conclusion, and then we will compare conclusions to establish whether or not we arrived at the same conclusion.
All right. And then after the blind verification, your results are item 5.7, which is a projectile from the autopsy was suitable to test. That's correct?
Correct.
And 5.8, another projectile from the autopsy removed from liver, suitable.
Yes.
And item 5.9, a fired bullet, suitable.
Correct.
Okay. And then you also list 14.1, the Smith & Wesson, serial number VAS 0598, 45 caliber, and it was functional.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then item 14.2, magazine, Smith & Wesson magazine.
Yes.
Okay. And can you now tell the jury what was the testing that you did?
So I did perform a microscopic comparison of those projectiles or bullets from autopsy to test fires from the firearm, and I identified those bullets as having been fired by that firearm, and that is the opinion of the laboratory.
So just so we're clear, you took the projectiles, did a microscopic comparison from something that you test fired from ammunition at your lab.
Correct.
Okay. And your conclusion here, that projectiles 5.7, 5.8, and 5.9 bullets were identified as having been fired by item 14.1, the Smith & Wesson 45 caliber handgun, correct?
Yes, and that is an opinion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kendrick. I appreciate it. I'll pass the witness.
So quick on these witnesses.
If I get some light room.
Aziz, light. Now iris down.
Ms. Kendrick, the way you look at these projectiles under a microscope, it's not done by a computer, correct?
No.
It's done by you personally, comparing the markings that are left on the projectiles.
Yes.
And those projectiles receive those markings as they're coming through the barrel. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And a lot of these guns are mass-produced, aren't they?
Yes, they are mass-produced.
So at the factory, the parts are put together, but they're mass-produced by the same machine sometimes. Is that true?
Correct.
And so that causes a lot of times guns that have similar, or they can have similar markings on them, right?
They would have the same class characteristics, but the microscopic markings that I used for that comparison to determine whether it was or was not fired by that firearm, those have been established through validation studies to be different between firearms.
And when you're looking at those markings, how many points do you have to say that they actually match?
That is not an approach that we take as the firearm discipline. We don't have a certain count that we have to arrive at. It's based on agreement of patterns. So there are numerous lines basically that you can see when you're looking through the microscope. And if one line on the test fired bullet lines up with one line on the evidence bullet, I would not consider that to be an identification. What I'm looking for is patterns of lines, an agreement between those two patterns. But in terms of having a count that I need to reach, that's not an approach that we use.
And can different examiners have different ways of deciding whether it matches or not?
It's all pattern matching. That's what we would consider it. So you have to use pattern matching in order to establish whether it was or was not fired by that firearm. There are some labs that might use counting as an approach to reach a conclusion, but that is not generally accepted by the field of firearm and tool mark identification.
And who's the person that verified your results?
That's Heather Francis.
And again, she works in the same building you do?
Yes, she does.
Do you ever send out the projectiles to have somebody outside of your office to be examined?
No, that would be up to the submitting agency. If they wanted someone else to look at that evidence, that would be their decision to make.
So even if, let's say, you didn't agree in your conclusions, you wouldn't send that out on your own to have somebody else verify it that didn't work in the same building that you did?
No, we would have our third examiner look at it, and then if agreement still could not be reached, that would be addressed by our chief of physical evidence.
And again, someone that still works in the same building?
Correct.
I passed away.
That was it.
Anyone related to whatever the evidence is.
This is the dance
could pay to
instructor
have
there in the
that
white shirt.
Tested as well on their own, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
May she be finally excused.
Yes, Your Honor. No objection.
No objection.
Very good. You may stand down. You're excused from any further service. Call your next witness, please.
Before I call my next witness, Your Honor.
Sidebar?
At this time, Your Honor, I'm going to offer it into evidence by agreement, a stipulation of evidence, which would be State's Exhibit 187 for all purposes.
No objection.
187 is admitted.
Sorry. And pursuant to this stipulation, I would like to offer into evidence the serology report, also conducted by Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science, which is 168. I'd like to offer in the report.
No objection, Your Honor.
It's admitted. You may publish.
All right, thank you. At this time, the state calls Anita Webb.
Anita Webb? Somebody Webb. Don't know who the serology report's for. We'll find out. Maybe the decedent. She has a badge. She looks official. She has a bag as well.
You could please come to the front of the courtroom, and before you have a seat, turn and face me and raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
I do.
Please have a seat. You're responding to questions from Ms. Mitchell, perhaps also Mr. Sanchez to your left. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Amanda Webb, A-M-A-N-D-A.
Oh, she's an expert.
Last name W-E-B-B.
And Ms. Webb, for whom do you work?
I work for SWIFT's, the Dallas County Crime
So
Laboratory.
she turns to face
The
the
jury's
jury.
just heard about that. So you work in the same building as April Kendrick?
Yes, I do.
All right. And what do you do for SWIFT's?
I work in the biology unit. Specifically, my daily duties are performing DNA analysis.
Can you just go ahead and briefly explain what you're asked to do in a DNA analysis without getting too complicated?
Yes, so and for DNA testing, the majority of our work is performing DNA analysis on evidence that's collected from a crime scene, trying to obtain DNA profiles from that evidence, and compare any DNA profiles we obtain to the DNA profiles of a known individual to determine if they're included as a possible contributor or if they're excluded as a possible contributor. So they could not have contributed that DNA.
All right. And before you start your testing, there's something usually done called serology. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the report is in evidence, but can you, if you feel comfortable, just generally explain what that process is? So a piece of evidence goes to serology first, and then if it's suitable, it moves to forensic biology. Is that correct?
Yes, so the forensic biology department actually has multiple sections. So the serology unit is under biology as well, and then we have the DNA analysis unit. So when evidence comes in with a request for biology, it is first assigned to a serologist. So serology, very simply, is the testing for biological fluids, such as blood. And that unit will discuss with the detective what type of testing they're requesting to be done. And then they will get that evidence and they will perform that testing. For example, screening evidence for the presence of blood. And they will collect samples that are then sent forward to DNA. So those types of samples can be samples that test positive for blood, or they can be just samples that are collected for potential touch DNA or handler DNA, as well as what you can consider wear DNA, DNA from areas on clothing you might have worn. All those types of samples are looking for any type of DNA that might be present from your skin cells, from sweat, saliva, any of those things can be present on those items.
Okay, and they do, if you're familiar, they do a presumptive and confirmatory test?
Yes, so there's two types of testing for blood. The first test is a presumptive test. So it is like a screening tool. This is a chemical color change test, and they will take a cotton swab, kind of like a Q-tip, and you rub it over the surface of an item, or if the evidence item is a swab, they will roll that onto a piece of paper, and they add chemicals. And they look for a color change. That color change is a positive test result, and we call this a presumptive test because it will give a positive result for blood, but also other items can give you a positive result as well. So it is not confirmatory for blood, it just suggests the presence of blood. It also tests positive for human blood as well as animal blood. If there is enough sample there's a large enough stain, they will then proceed to perform a confirmatory test. And that test is confirmatory for the presence of human blood. This isn't performed on every piece of item because it does consume part of that sample. So if it's a small stain, then they will preserve that sample for DNA instead of performing that test.
You also label them the same. Is that correct? So it kind of makes it easier to refer back and forth in between the reports.
So in the DNA, I'm sorry, for as far as the item name goes, is that what you're...
12.1.1.
Yes, so evidence items that come into the laboratory keep that same item number. So if an item number, for example, item number 1 is a shirt, that same item number 1 shirt is in serology, and any samples they collect from that first number is still going to be item 1, and then they may add an additional number after that for the sample that they collect from that shirt,
Mental
and that
health
will go
beyond-
forward to DNA.
Be on defense.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Webb, I'm going to show you what's marked in State's Exhibit 169. Can you review that and make sure it is correct?
Yes, this is a copy of a DNA report that I issued in this case.
All right, and you did this report at or near the time of the testing, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence States 169
No objection, be seated.
for all purposes.
It's admitted for all purposes. You may publish.
Thank you.
There have been no objections to any exhibits
Okay.
so far, or any evidence.
I'm going to go back to the serology report, and let's start with the DNA report that you did. And I want to, at least start with what was this list of things that were submitted to you.
Yes,
Okay.
this list of evidence items are items that were requested for DNA testing.
Okay. And then all of this was requested for DNA testing, and all of this was tested. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what you received were blood standards from James Faith Jr. Is that correct? From the autopsy?
Yes, I did receive an autopsy blood standard from James Faith Jr.
And that's important in the DNA testing, correct?
That sample is what we would use to obtain the known DNA profile of James Faith Jr. to compare to the evidence samples.
Okay. Now, can you please explain to the jury how you do your testing?
The process of testing for DNA is we take a small sample from what we're given. So if it's a swab, we take a small cutting from that, and we will add it to a tube, and we add chemicals to that tube. And this will help break open the cells and release the DNA. We will then use more chemicals to clean up that sample to rid it of all the extraneous materials that are found in the cells. And then once we have a purified DNA extract, we will put it on an instrument that tells us how much DNA is present. The next step is then to put the sample through a process on an instrument that kind of functions like a Xerox machine. So it'll make a whole bunch of copies of any DNA that's present in the sample. And then finally, we put that sample onto what we call a genetic analyzer. It's an instrument that helps us to visualize the DNA profile. At that time, we perform that process for all of the evidence samples, as well as the known individuals, for example, the blood standard or a buccal swab standard from any known individuals in the case. We will then look at each sample and determine how many people contributed DNA. Is it from a single source, a single person's DNA profile? Or is it a mixture of DNA from 2, 3, or more contributors? And then once we have looked at all those evidence DNA profiles, we will then compare the known DNA profiles to see if they're included or excluded.
Okay, so this is what we have on your second page is exactly what you were talking about, whether it's a complete profile, incomplete profile, and a single source.
Yes, this table will tell you the number of contributors, the profile category, what that means on that very right. A single source is from one person. If it is a mixture of DNA, there's different ways we can look at that mixture. If we look at that mixture and determine that one person contributed more DNA than a second person, and we're able to separate out those DNA profiles, then we call that a major minor. So a major contributor, somebody contributed more DNA, and a minor contributor for the person that contributed a lower amount. If we're not able to make that separation, you will see for some of those samples it says simple mixture, and that just means it's a mixture of DNA that was not able to be separated out.
Did you already explain complete versus possibly incomplete?
I have not yet. So for that description of profile column, you have 3 options that you'll see here: complete, incomplete, or possibly incomplete. So a complete DNA profile means that we are seeing all of the genetic information that we would expect to see for that number of contributors that is in that next column. Incomplete means we know that there's genetic information that's missing. We do not have a complete DNA profile. And possibly incomplete means that we are not able to tell there is potentially genetic information missing. So it's possibly incomplete.
Okay, but you can still test.
Yes, if it's possibly incomplete, that does not mean we can't interpret that DNA profile. It's just a way of describing the profile.
And then on your third, 4 of 8, it says 4 of 8. These are basically your conclusions. And what I want to focus on is, just generally you have 2 columns up top, correct? You have the samples with the numbers, and then you have the name James Faith Jr. and then the name Darrin Lopez, correct?
Yes.
You've got excluded,
yes,
and included, and then a certain number. Can you explain before we get into it what that means?
Yes, so for the individuals tab, those are the people that we were given known DNA standards for to compare to the evidence. As you go down the column for each person, that will tell you if they are excluded as being a possible contributor, so they could not have contributed DNA to that sample, or if they are included. And you will see that anytime somebody is included as a possible contributor, we give a statistic. And what that statistic here tells you is that if you were to randomly select an individual and compare them to this DNA profile, what is the number of people that would potentially be included as a contributor in that same way? Those statistics can range from, you see here, there's a number less than 1 in 10 trillion. So that is the strongest statistic that our laboratory reports out. What that means is that if you were to randomly select an individual and compare them to this DNA profile, you would have to have more than 10 trillion people before you'd expect another person to also match that DNA profile in the same way. And so to put that into a little bit of perspective, we have just under 8 billion people on the earth right now. So you would have to have more than 1,200 of the earth's populations before you'd expect another person to match in that same way. The statistics can go all the way down to something such as, here you see a 1 in 2 statistic. And what that 1 in 2 means is that, again, if you were to randomly select an individual and compare them to that profile, 1 out of every 2 people would be included in that same way. So, for example, half of this courtroom for a 1 in 2 statistic would potentially be included as a possible contributor.
All right, and what I want to focus on is at the bottom we have 11.7.1. And we have stain swab, and you have quotes, ... slide stop, close quote. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And that slide stop is actually from a swab from a gun, correct?
That sample was submitted to us as a swab. So as we talked about, kind of like the Q-tip that you can picture in your head. It was submitted to the laboratory as a swab that was labeled as slide stop.
Okay. And the conclusions on this one is under James Faith Jr., that swab from the slide stop is the one in more than 1 in 10 trillion. Is that right?
That sample, the results for that sample are that the DNA profile obtained from that sample was from a single male and matched the DNA profile of James Faith Jr. And yes, that statistic for including him in that sample is less than 1 in 10 trillion. So you would have to have more than 10 trillion people before you'd expect another person to also match that DNA profile in the same way.
I just did the math. That's a
also
lot.
Just what you said before, the highest possible figure that you report out. Is that correct?
That is the strongest statistic that our laboratory reports out.
Okay. And then under the same 11.7.1 on Darren Lopez, we have excluded.
Off air.
So his genetic profile was not found at all.
He was excluded as being a contributor to that sample.
Okay. And then the same for 12.1.1. We have stained swabs right under 11.7.1, quote, slide/trigger guard. And in that one, we have the same. Under James Faith, we have less than 1 in 10 trillion, the strongest statistic that you report out. And under Darren Lopez, we have excluded, correct?
Yes, that DNA profile, again, was from a single male that matched the DNA profile of James Faith Jr. with that less than 1 in 10 trillion statistic, and Darren Lopez was excluded.
Okay. Now, and also, just for the record, because we put this report in the serology report, on page 4 of 7, and again, this is not your report, but it is an evidence. And she did. Under we have 11.007.001, if you can see where my pen is. You'll have to look here. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes.
Or you can turn, it might be on your screen right there as well. Okay.
Yes, and I have that report in front of me as well.
Okay. And so we have that. If you go over, I'm sorry. If you turn the page, the testing performed in this column here, presumptive or confirmatory, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So on 11.7.1, you have presumptive and confirmatory. Would you agree with that?
What those results indicate is that that sample tested positive with the presumptive test for blood. In the confirmatory column, you see a Q, and what that means is quantity not sufficient. So that confirmatory test was not performed because it was determined that there was not enough sample to perform that test. They preserved the sample for DNA.
Okay, and the same thing with 11.7.1 and then 12.1.1. We have the same thing under 12.1.1, swabs, slide trigger guard.
Yes, the serology results for sample 12.1.1 are the same as just discussed. That presumptive test was positive, but not enough quantity to perform the confirmatory test.
Okay, but you can still perform a genetic testing on those swabs?
Yes, we are still able to perform DNA analysis.
Okay, and you were able to get a genetic profile and reach conclusions off those swabs, correct?
Yes, I was.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Webb. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Webb, did you do anything else other than what you testified to here today?
No, I did not perform any additional testing on other items in this case. I issued this one DNA report.
That's all I have.
You should be finally excused.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor. May I approach before you?
Sure. Okay. Hang on 1 second. please make sure that you don't have any exhibits in your documents over there. Okay, check for a state check for a state sticker.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb. Actually, can we still approach? I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Of course you can. Before you have a seat, could you please turn and face me and raise your hand? I swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. Please find the questions from Ms. Mitchell and perhaps also Mr. Sanchez or Mr. Duke to your left. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
You too.
Can you please introduce yourself and state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, good morning. My name is Dr. Jessica Dwyer. That's Jessica. D as in dog, Wyer.
And Dr. Dwyer, for whom do you work?
I am a staff forensic pathologist for the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office, which is a branch of the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences, also known as SWIFS.
All right, and you are a medical examiner?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you briefly explain to the jury what a medical examiner does?
So a medical examiner and a forensic pathologist are the same thing, just different names. As a forensic pathologist, our duty is to determine a cause and manner of deaths for deaths that occur within the jurisdiction, namely deaths that occur suddenly, unexpectedly, traumatically, or non-naturally. And we do that by performing postmortem examinations, also known as autopsies.
All right, and generally, how do you start an autopsy?
So the process starts, the body or the decedent is reported to the office. The body is then ordered to our office. It goes to the morgue. And when the autopsy begins, we work side by side with an autopsy technician. The autopsy technician will go and retrieve the body from the cooler. We will weigh and measure the length of the body. We will do radiographs or x-rays, depending on what type of case it is. And then the body is brought to the examination table. And the first part of the autopsy is what's called an external examination. So we will document the condition of the body with photographs before we do anything. So we call those as-is photographs. After that, I start on one corner of the body and work my way up to the head and go down the other side of the body, essentially documenting any evidence of trauma, natural disease, any evidence or any potentially identifying features like hair color, eye color, tattoos, scars, etc. And then once we're done with the external examination, we'll then commence the internal examination, which if you've ever watched a crime show, you've probably been familiar with the Y-shaped incision. We will perform on the chest and the abdomen to access the organs. We will also remove the top of the skull to examine the brain. We examine all of the organs, again, for any evidence of natural disease, trauma, anything pertinent to the case. Following the examination of the organs, the organs get returned into the body, and the autopsy is complete.
All right. May I approach the bench, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay. You want a second, Dr. Dwyer?
Sure.
Did I miss the pinned message for her name? A little distracted here.
May I pursue witness, Your Honor?
You may.
All right. Dr. Dwyer, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 170. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And did you create this document?
I did, yes.
All right. And you did an autopsy under this IFS number, which I haven't gotten out yet, but IFS 2018867. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that IFS number follows all the testing throughout SWIFTs.
Yes, it's the unique identifying number for this decedent.
Okay. And you did this report based on the autopsy of James Spade Jr. You did this report at or near the time of the autopsy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it has been in custody of SWIFTs.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer the evidence. State's Exhibit 170, the autopsy.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admit it. You may publish.
For all purposes, Your Honor. Thank you. All right. May I approach one more time? I'm also going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 2, and then State's Exhibits 171. Through 186. Can you look through those and see if you recognize those photos?
Yes, ma'am.
Those are photos taken during the autopsy, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence State's Exhibit 2 for all purposes, as well as State's Exhibits 171 through 186 for all purposes.
They're admitted. You may publish.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Dwyer, let's start with your report. Okay, and again, we have the first page of your report with the IFS number on here, the decedent being James Spade Jr., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You start with an external examination.
Correct.
Okay? And you've already talked to the jury about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You get the weight and you get the length.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We move to page 2, and again, you're doing the external examination.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you talk about the evidence of injury. Can you explain the evidence of injury in this particular report?
Yes. So from external examination and subsequently his internal examination as well, there are a total of 7 gunshot wounds that I identified.
All right. And let's go over you have 3 penetrating gunshot wounds of the head.
Yes.
Okay. And do you break those out? All right. Let's talk about the 3 penetrating gunshot wounds of the head. Can you explain those?
So the reason why I have 3 kind of clustered in the same description is because they are all within a very similar anatomic area and their wound paths are both intersecting and overlapping. So, to make it easier to explain, the paths are kind of described in aggregate. So there are a total of 3 gunshot wounds of the head. More specifically, there are 3 gunshot entrance wounds on the left side of his head, kind of around the left ear area.
Okay, and we'll get to the photos, but let's discuss In aggregate, if you want to talk about that, that would be easier to explain.
Sure.
Okay.
You want me to discuss the injuries in aggregate, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I said, there are 3 entrance wounds kind of on the left side of his head around the left ear area. In aggregate, there are 3 bullets that penetrate the skin, the subcutaneous soft tissues, and the muscle of this part of the head. They actually fracture the skull, enter what's called the cranium, which is where the brain sits. It penetrates the brain, specifically the cerebral hemispheres and the cerebellar hemispheres, and it transects the brainstem, which is essentially what connects the spinal cord to the brain.
All right. And generally, in state's exhibits 173, 174, 175, and 176, do we show what you're describing in here?
Yes, this is a picture of the left side of his head.
Okay, and can you describe in states 173 what you were taking a picture of?
So there's 3 gunshot wounds. You can't really see the one just above his ear because it's covered by hair, but there is another photo where that has been shaved. But he has a gunshot entrance wound just above his ear. He has one centered on his left external ear, and then he has another one just below the left ear.
Okay. So this is what you were saying. They're very clustered together.
Yes.
And so they're sort of taking the same routes.
Yes.
The bullet goes in.
Yes.
Okay. Here we have State's Exhibit 174. And here we can see better with the head shaved.
Actually, if you turn it to where that large sticker is, yep, that's anatomically correct. So this is a photograph of the gunshot wound that's just above his ear that was previously covered by hair in the picture just before it. And now I have shaved the hair around that entrance wound just so you can see it better.
Okay, and State's Exhibit 175, we get a closer of the one that actually went into the external left ear.
That's correct, yes.
And then 176, this is going to be the one below the ear.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we go back to 173, it makes a little bit more sense now.
Yes, ma'am.
The gunshot wound up here, the one here, and the one down here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Can you just generally talk about, do you recover fragments at that point during the autopsy?
Yes.
From this area?
Bullet fragments were recovered from the brain, yes.
All right. And can you generally talk about the paths of the bullet, or predominantly rightward?
The paths of all 3 bullets are essentially rightward, so from left to right.
Okay. And the injury associated with that?
Yeah, so in addition to the injuries directly caused by the bullets, there are other injuries that are associated, including there's hemorrhage underneath the scalp, there is hemorrhage on the surface of the brain, within the brain, there are fractures of the skull and the base of the skull, and essentially there are also bruises on the brain, or we call contusions of the brain.
Okay. Would these 3 gunshots alone likely have killed him instantly?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 2. And can you describe what this photo is?
So this is what we call an I'm sorry, that's not correct. This is an identification photo. So every decedent that we examine will have a photograph of just their face with the unique identifying number assigned to them by our facility. And in the purposes of they need to be identified visually.
Okay, so this number, IFS 218867, is going to correlate with the IFS number on the report.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the IFS number means Institute of Forensic Science.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's go to State's Exhibit 171. Can you describe that picture?
So this is an as-is photograph. Essentially, when we open the body bag, before we do anything with the body, we will photograph the condition of the body. This is the upper half of his body from the head to the trunk, essentially, again, with the unique identifying number for the decedent.
And 172 would just be the bottom half.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, back to the report. We then move, and you separate it out a little more, the gunshot wounds to the trunk.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you go ahead and talk about the gunshot wound, the first gunshot wound to his trunk, where it was?
Yes. So in addition to the 3 gunshot wounds of the head, there are then additional gunshot wounds of the trunk, which is the anatomic area comprising the chest and the abdomen. So I arbitrarily number them for organizational purposes. And the first one that I numbered as penetrating gunshot wound number 1 is on the right side of the upper chest. That's where the entrance wound is.
Okay, is this going to be in States 179?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you describe...
I thought it was shot from behind first, but maybe I'm wrong.
Just exactly what we described before. Path, what you recovered from it, and the injury caused.
Yes, ma'am. So the bullet enters the right side of the chest, goes through the skin, subcutaneous soft tissues, and muscle of the right side of the chest. It then enters the right chest cavity where the lung sits, and it does penetrate a part of the lung, the right hemidiaphragm, which is a sheet of muscle that sits between the lung, or the chest, and the abdomen, and also penetrates parts of the liver. And we did recover a jacketed bullet from the liver. So the path would be backward, downward, and slightly rightward.
I was actually talking to the owner of the Homestead to Hardware
and the injuries
YouTube channel.
associated with this?
Yes. So there is a contusion of the right lung, and there's also blood within the right chest and blood within the abdominal cavity.
Now let's move to penetrating gunshot wound of the trunk number 2.
So
where it was?
The entrance wound is on the kind of the posterolateral aspect of the left side of the chest. That's where the entrance wound is. The bullet penetrates the skin, subcutaneous soft tissues, and muscles of the left side of the chest. It also enters the left chest cavity where the left lung sits.
Hang on, Dr. Dwyer. I'm just going to show you State's Exhibit number 181. Would this be this one?
Yes, ma'am.
This one up here?
No, the one where the sticker is.
Bottom.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's the gunshot wound that we're talking about on the body?
Yes,
in the trunk, okay?
Sorry, I got lost in there. This is the
Get the mix.
This is penetrating gunshot wound number 1. The bullet penetrates the skin, subcutaneous soft tissues, muscles of the left side of the chest, enters the left chest cavity. It then penetrates the heart and the descending thoracic aorta, which the aorta is the largest artery in the body. And we recovered a jacketed bullet from the soft tissues kind of around the heart. And so the path of this bullet is rightward, upward, and forward. And injuries associated with this gunshot wound include contusions of the left lung. There is blood within the sac that sits around the heart. And there is hemorrhage within the soft tissues, essentially around the heart and the aorta.
Okay, and the path of this one is rightward, upward, and forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you have in here that there are approximately 220 cc's of blood remaining within the pericardial sac. Why do you make a notation of that?
So there's blood within the pericardial sac. So the pericardial sac is what the heart, it surrounds the heart. When it fills with blood, it can sometimes impede the heart from pumping correctly. And I said remaining within the sac because there are holes in the pericardium, so blood is also coming out. So that's all that's remaining, and there's potentially more at one point.
My neighbor took him out for me.
Let's move to
He's
penetrating
awesome.
gunshot wound of the trunk number 3. And this is going to be on State's Exhibit 182, where the sticker is. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you do the same as the other ones described?
Yes, ma'am. So this gunshot wound, the entrance is on the lateral aspect of the left side of the chest. This bullet also penetrates the skin, subcutaneous soft tissues, and muscles of the left side of the chest. It actually enters the abdominal cavity, not the left chest cavity, where it then penetrates the left hemidiaphragm, which again is the muscle that sits between the chest and the abdomen, the spleen, the stomach, the omentum, part of the colon, which is the large intestines, the liver, the right hemidiaphragm, and essentially goes out the right side of the chest. And we recovered a jacketed bullet within the right chest cavity. It was just freely floating in the cavity.
Okay, and injuries associated?
Oh, sorry, yes. Again, there's blood within the abdomen. There's about 100 cc's, and there is blood within the right chest cavity.
And then, okay, I'm sorry. And then you have gunshot wound to the right thigh.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You called it perforating gunshot wound to the right thigh.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is what we're going to see in State's Exhibit 185?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and can you explain what you mean by perforating gunshot wound to the right thigh?
So the previous gunshot wounds have all been penetrating because they have an entrance and a bullet recovered from the body. Perforating, however, implies that there is both an entrance and an exit wound on the body, so there's no bullet remaining within that bullet track. So the perforating gunshot wound of the right thigh, the entrance is actually in the right groin area. You can see there's a dark circle. That's the entrance wound. That large abrasion that's kind of more oval shaped is just an abrasion from the bullet going against the skin. It's an area where skin folds on skin, so we call that intertriginous skin. So it's just an injury as the bullet is entering the right thigh. So this particular bullet enters the right thigh, penetrates the skin, subcutaneous soft tissues, and muscles of the right thigh, and it exits out the lateral aspect of the right thigh. And so the path is essentially rightward and backward.
Okay, and just going back to these gunshot wounds, and I'm sorry, I should have noted this earlier, was there soot or stippling on these gunshot wounds?
None of them have soot or stippling, so we would designate the ranges as indeterminate.
Okay, and indeterminate could mean, can you give any kind of...
Sure. So when we talk about soot or gunpowder stippling, what we always will we will note if it's present or not. When a gun is fired, in addition to a bullet, there is also gas, hot gas, soot, and gunpowder particles that get ejected as in addition to the bullet. And depending how far away the victim is from the gun when it's fired, you may see soot or stippling from the gunpowder particles indicative of how far away the victim may be. In this instance, there is no soot, there is no stippling, so it's either the victim is too far away for there to be, so we would say that it's a distant range, or that there is some sort of intermediary target.
Okay. And let's go to State's Exhibit. I believe you talk about this as additional injuries.
I really like her glasses. I could never wear them, but they look good.
Additional injuries under Roman numeral 6 on page 5 of 11. And is that going to be what we see in State's Exhibit 186?
No, that's the exit wound for the gunshot wound of the right thigh.
Okay. So what we were just seeing in State's Exhibit 185.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is going to be the exit wound 186.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then can you just discuss any additional injuries?
So these are injuries in addition to the 7 gunshot wounds. Essentially, he has a laceration. A laceration is another word for a gash that's surrounded by an abrasion, which is another word for a scratch, essentially. It's on the right side of his scalp. So it's a laceration that is surrounded by abrasion. He has a couple of small abrasions on his right thigh, an abrasion on his right knee, and a couple of abrasions on his left shin.
Okay. Otherwise, doing the internal examination, otherwise he was a healthy male for his age.
Yes, I mean, he has some underlying cardiovascular disease, but other than that, I did not see anything unusual.
In toxicology, you see none detected.
No substances detected.
And then on page 8 of 11, this is when you do your findings?
Yes.
Okay, with the ranges are indeterminate. You do entrance and exit, direction, and associated injuries on that part, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before we finish up with that, on State's Exhibit 184, 185, these are on State's Exhibit 177. This is what you recovered from, some of the fragments recovered from the body. Is that correct?
Could you lower it also so I can see what's written? No, the other way.
So
these are fragments of a jacketed bullet that are recovered from the right side of the brain.
Okay, and State's Exhibit 178.
These are also numerous fragments of a jacketed bullet that are recovered from the brain.
State's Exhibit 180.
This is the bullet that's recovered from the liver.
184.
This is the bullet recovered from the right chest cavity that was freely floating within the cavity.
And 183.
This is the bullet recovered from the soft tissues surrounding the heart that we mentioned previously.
All right, and going back to your report, you finish up with your findings.
Somebody's phone's ringing.
Sorry, whose phone is that? Please mute it.
In your conclusions, Dr. Dwyer, the cause of death?
Multiple gunshot wounds of the head and trunk.
And manner of death.
Homicide.
You also do two drawings in this report, correct?
There are 2 body diagrams.
2 body diagrams.
I'm not that good at drawing.
Yeah.
Stick figures.
Be a fun part of the job. Okay, so on this particular page, what are you showing, not to scale?
So this particular diagram shows 4 views of the face, the front, the back, the left, and the right side. And if you look on the top left diagram, that would be the left side of the head. And there are 3 entrance wounds, gunshot entrance wounds that I've designated based on the anatomic area.
Okay, and no exit ones.
Correct.
Okay.
Each one of those would be
Hence, where you
fatal.
find all the projectiles in the brain.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then this last page, another body diagram.
Yes.
Okay, and can you, just using that screen, just sort of generally denote what we're looking at, entrance and exit ones?
So it's a little bit busier, but again, the Roman numerals correspond with the order that they're described in the autopsy report. So you can see the gunshot wound on the right side of the upper chest is Roman numeral 2.
Dr. Dwyer, you can use that screen and actually touch it if you want.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let there be light.
So Roman numeral 2 corresponds to the gunshot wound on the right side of his chest. The bullet is recovered from the liver. Roman numeral 3 is the gunshot wound on the posterolateral aspect of the left side of the chest. And we recovered the bullet from this area in the chest. And then Roman numeral 4 is the gunshot wound on the left side of the chest, and then the bullet recovery over here in the right chest cavity. And then gunshot wound Roman numeral 5 with the entrance and exit on the right thigh.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, Jamie. Good to have you here.
I appreciate it. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Doctor, could you tell...
He's always surprised by the light.
It would have been rapid. Yes.
Almost immediately, probably.
Yes.
That's all I have.
This witness be filing excuse.
How fast did he die? It would have been rapid.
No objection.
You may stand down. Thank
No
you very
objection.
much.
There's
Call your next witness, please.
defense is not fighting this evidence at all.
May we approach?
Sure. Back in the jury room at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Don't discuss the case among yourselves and don't do any independent research. All rise for the jurors.
We have a 10-minute break. Okay. The defendant seems to almost jump every time the light's turned on. We have a 10-minute break here while we get the little stretch and everything that the judge orders. Just trying to see where's the. Let's see. So the phone call I was on just a minute ago, as we wait for the break, was with my friend who is starting a YouTube channel right here. Let me copy this. There we go. I'll paste again. Okay, just 1 second. And Here's her link. She has a homestead. Literally, she has a farm with animals and everything. That is amazing. I've been out there a couple times. I've actually metal detected on her property because she's out on a road that has a ton of history. Guess what? I don't have rights to post links in my own channel, so never mind. Anyway, she has a homestead and she has these amazing farms. I think she has goats, chickens, geese, a bunch of everything. She's got fields. She says, I want to set up cameras to film my cows because the cows have so much personality. They're extremely friendly, and so she's going to set up a live stream. So if you are interested in watching just some cows in a field, there it is. Thank you, Samantha Terry. That's her account. She's just barely getting started, so there are a couple of really quick videos she's put together. I'm meeting with her on Saturday. I'm going to show her some of the gear options because she doesn't have internet down at the barn, so she needs to figure out how to get internet there. But we're gonna figure out what she needs for that, and then I'm working with her on some other stuff around town as well that needs video coverage. So if you like homesteading, she owns a hardware store. She started up a hardware store. Just decided she used to run a beauty salon. She started up a hardware store. It just opened up a couple months ago, and it's awesome. It's a little town desperately needs the sales tax revenue, desperately needs the investment from people like that, and so she's doing a great job. So, nope, I just almost had a call come in on the burner phone, but then it just went away. I missed the call. All right. So here we've had a couple. I started drinking raw cow milk. Yummy. I've watched raving hamsters on TikToks live, so I'll be down with cows, says Julie. These are some cute cows. And I'll probably be out there at some point. We'll probably do a live stream together just to help her out. Her son is incredibly smart and is just very interested in my channel and how I put things together, and wants to know how to run his YouTube channel. He's just a young kid, so we're gonna get them set up right. Cows are extremely intelligent animals, fantastic mothers when man doesn't remove the calves. Yep, and they have. I think they've got a couple cows. Yes, they're gonna have more baby cows for sure. How's my son doing? He's doing well. He's actually out on a biology cruise right now. He said yesterday we went out to some remote island on the Outer Banks that's only available by boat, only accessible by boat. And they stepped off the boat, and immediately he's identifying, fiddler crabs and ghost crabs and, all the sand fleas and everything else, the volcano worm, you name it. They're finding all these cool stuff. He is in heaven. He loves that stuff. He wants to be a marine biologist. But right now he's like a ninja, literally, American warrior ninja type guy. Anyway, we're going to get her set up so she can do live streams. I've walked her through a couple things. I'm going to walk her through some more on Saturday because that's when I'm not busy, and she's also going to be. I'll just head down to the hardware store and we'll explain some stuff. Make sure he's wearing a life jacket. They are making sure they're all in life jackets. I made sure of that as well. My family, actually, this is fun. They're at an Airbnb. They're staying out there by the ocean so that my son can do this class. It is a summer class. And meanwhile, the rest of the family is going to the beach and doing museums and things like that. So they stay at this Airbnb and they get talking with the hosts, and they're like, yeah, my husband can't come because he does YouTube. And they're saying, oh, what does he do? She says, oh, he does true crime stuff. Oh, and she's like, I'm into true crime. And my wife pulls up my stream. She's like, yeah, I've watched him. So the Airbnb hosts have watched the channel. I'm not sure if they're subscribers or members, but it was sort of funny to see that connection. That's pretty neat. Anyway, the family's having a blast out there. Just a beautiful Airbnb. I think it's in Beaufort, which is down by it's Beaufort, Beaufort, North Carolina. It's spelled exactly like it sounds, with lots of silent letters. Fiddler crabs, they play fiddles. Ghost crabs, they get eaten. They got eaten, yes, sometime in the past. It's the ghost of a previous crab. As far as the witnesses so far, we're still burning through witnesses. We just had the medical examiner, I believe. Here's Beaufort. That's it right there. Thank you, Les Poet. The medical examiner just testified as far as the injuries that were sustained. It was quite thorough. There was virtually no chance of survival of that attack. It's it was not point blank because just we didn't hear about any gunshot residue, stippling, or anything on the body that was detected. Of course, clothing could have also, impede some of that. And I don't know if they tested any of the clothing he was wearing. But 3 to the head, 3 to the body, 1 to the groin is basically how it ended up. I believe more shots were fired than that, but those are the ones that hit. So just a very thorough hit. And to think that, immediately after that, he probably to make it look like more of an attack. But also this could play into the prosecution's theory of what they say was the fantasy that was going on between these two individuals, between Jennifer and Darren. He then tied her hands and possibly struck her. So he tied her hands with a little bit of duct tape, not enough to really work. It sort of fell off. It was so little duct tape that the witnesses are like, you were tied with that? Where's the rest? Type thing. That piece held your wrist together. But it does that and then hops in his car and drives back. It was 747 miles back home to Tennessee. And that's it. Duct tape. Duct tape is an actual brand. Duct tape is the correct thing to say. But I prefer gaff tape myself over duct tape because it doesn't leave a residue. And unfortunately, it's about $30 a roll, so it's a little spendy. Must have been quite the ride home. Yes. I wonder, we'll have to go back and look on the timeline and see when the texts started again. When he's like, so that happened, so done, good to see you, or was this like, hey, you didn't look anything like what you said in the pictures, or I don't know what happened because I don't know how much video or anything had been going on. Did he feel like it was bait and switch when he showed up and did the shooting, and then said, "Oh, you're not how I remember you," or her screaming and yelling. He's like, "Hey, I thought you wanted me to do this." I wonder what happened. Hopefully, we'll get some more testimony about that as it goes on. Let's see. I've always called it duct tape. Duct tape is a brand, and they started it because people were calling it duct tape instead of duct tape, is my understanding. So they just capitalized on it. I think you can buy it. You can buy it at most hardware stores. Thanks for those that are subscribing to the Hardware to Homestead channel. I'm really excited about, I'll tell you, her name is Sarah. I'm really excited about getting Sarah and her started up on her channel. She has a personality that is just so outgoing and so friendly, and she's an incredible teacher. So she loves just trying things and figuring it out and then helping other people figure it out. So she's a great DIY type person. So you're going to see a lot of that. She's canning for the first time. She's doing a lot of this homesteading stuff and teaching people how to do it. So we'll get started on that. Okay, they sell it in the craft section of Walmart now, duct tape. So you can buy it pretty much across the country now. At the Walmart. Where's more Walmart soundbite? Every time we say Walmart, we have to use this soundbite. Let's see. There it is.
In front of the Walmart.
Front of the Walmart. All right, getting Sarah. Different Sarah. Not Sarah Boone. I didn't even make the connection in my head when I say that her name is Sarah. Not Sarah Boone. Definitely not Sarah Boone. I think if you look at duct tape, oftentimes it says not to use it in the way most people use it. Always wanted to learn canning. My mom did it growing up, and there was always something on the, canning and cooling on the counter, and the sound of the little mason jar lids, popping down as they cool down. It's fun stuff. Didn't do the pressure cooking stuff, though. Okay. Okay, let's see. My grandma was a canner. I tell you, there was a time as a kid. Here's a little story for you. My mom canned peaches, and these peaches, I remember picking the peaches because kids were free labor. Okay, in my family growing up, kids were free labor, and if something needed to be done, the kids were available to help. And so she we heard about this place that we're letting people pick the peaches, and they were like, oh, they're amazing, they're huge, they're beautiful. These were like softball-sized peaches. They were huge. They were massive. And the no insects, no bugs. They were just amazing, huge, ripe. And so you're picking 3 peaches fills your basket. These massive peaches, and so they were fun to pick. We picked a whole ton of them, several bushels, and then brought them home. And then, of course, we have to peel them and slice them and can them, and so we all participate in that. But these peaches, not only did they look good, but they tasted incredible, absolutely incredible. My phone's ringing. I don't know who's calling me, but anyway, so my mom cans them all, and we've got jars and jars of peaches, and she writes the date and peaches on the lid, and takes them down to the storage room. Hang on. It's an advertising. Anyway, so down to the storage room. Well, my bedroom was down in the storage room, and so all I needed to do was sneak a spoon downstairs, and I could use the spoon to pry up the mason jar lid, and I could just eat a jar of these peaches. And then I just had to rinse out the jar and put it in the unused jar stash, because we had all the empty jars and then all the full jars. And so the collection of peaches, and if my mom is listening right now, I'm sorry, I ate a lot of peaches. We'd eat a jar of peaches, and you had to eat the whole thing because you can't just leave a half-eaten jar of peaches. And then we'd rinse it out and put the jar back in so the peaches disappeared and the empty jars were available. But that was growing up. That was a good snack. It is a brief a brief break at the trial, Last Poet. 10-minute break. We're expecting them back right now. Judges said about 10 o'clock to Texas time to be back from the jury room. Did you follow any of Sarah Turney's statements after trial? I have not, Mike. We had a couple of people reach out to her. She's sort of laid low for a little bit. Was going to decide what to do. I'd love to be able to talk to her about it and see what she has to say. There's a lot of information that she has that was not admissible in court. She's not very happy with the outcome, but just deciding how to move on and what to do after so much of her life has been focused on this point, and then have it sort of be unsuccessful ultimately. So we'll see if she wants to be part of the program. We'd love to talk to her as well. We apparently we want to talk to all the Sarahs. If your name is Sarah, you have an opportunity on the program. We have 3 Sarahs now waiting in the wings. Okay. They released a podcast episode with statements. I figured that would be where they go primarily, because that's what she does. That's for her living. So that's going to be her first place. Obviously, we'd still like to talk to her. Now I want to go grab a jar of peaches. They are so good. I don't know what's the syrup. It's like sugar water with pectin or something. I don't remember that. Whatever goes in the jars. That was not my job, obviously. When it came time to fill the jars and seal them and move them and allow them to cool, that was for that was not for the kids. That's what Mom did. And so we were just the labor on the front end, peeling and slicing and throwing out the pits and everything. Let's see. You need to find the woman who freaked out on the plane about the man who wasn't real and get her on the show. Ivan, I think did Dr. G do a little look at that one? I can't remember. There was a video. Someone was doing an analysis of her behavior. I don't know if she was mentally impaired or chemically impaired. I don't know what the issue was, but she seemed. I don't know. If you haven't seen the video, it went viral. Somebody filmed on TikTok. There's a lady saying, you need to let me off this plane because that guy back there is not real. And she's vanished. She's gone. Maybe she wasn't real. But anyway, they did let her off the plane. It is sugar water in peaches. That's why it tastes delicious to drink afterwards. Last year I canned fresh Utah peaches. Justice Obsessed. This might be going back a ways, but in Utah, there was what used to be called the Fruit Highway, which was Highway 89 in what county is that? Just north of Weber County. It sort of runs next to Willard Bay and the mountains before you get up to Brigham City. But that Highway 89, that was the road where all the fruit stands were. And you could drive there down the summer, and there was just amazing, amazing fruit. The orchards were right there on the side of the hill. All the orchards, most of them have been sold off now, and there's homes instead. But it was amazing ground for trees, and just the fruit there was incredible off that fruit highway. Here comes the judge. I see him walking in. He likes to do a grand entrance. Sometimes he walks in fast, then he leaves, then he comes back and he does a slow, stately walk in. Let's see if he'll do that again this time. Spiced peaches by Harvest at Walmart. They're amazing. I'm going to have to look for these. Are they on the pickle aisle? Because that's where I find myself wandering to. Parrot Court, you do all the canning. Oh, a little bit of audio. It's still there. It's not the same, though. Some of the fields are still there. I realize that. I used to sell metal building components to some companies up there. There's actually there was a company named Paul Higley Construction that I was selling metal building components to. And he quit buying metal building components from us because he found a gold mine. He found gold out in the desert. And he's like, I make a bunch more money doing this than I do construction. I just have to scoop the gold off the ground. And we're like, really? And he showed us a gold bar from his mine. He dropped it on the desk in a zippered gun case, and we opened it up and just holding a bar of gold. He's like, "That's mine. I melted it down from my mine." He gave me a sample from the mine as well. That was pretty cool. Anyway, lots of stories from up there. We should. Oh, Judge is like down and back. He just looks so cool, calm, collected, in control. And he likes to stand perfectly oriented with the seal right behind him. Let's see. On the pickle aisle in a pretty jar. I will watch for this. I was at the store yesterday buying water because, it evaporates so quickly here in the house. Defendants there, the stars there. I find the star pattern interesting, that it's sewed across the points, like it's sewed point to point to point in a continuous. If they were to start at the very top, they would go down to the bottom and then up to the right and then down to the left and down to the right and then back up to the top. It looks like because it's sewed across the centerpiece, and maybe that just keeps it so the cloth doesn't flap because it's laid on top of it. A little bit of the fringe on the bottom right-hand corner is showing as well. Like the cloth is fraying a bit. But that's the flag of Texas, the Lone Star State,
State
right?
had a motion in limine. Hang on one second. State had a motion in limine. I'm sorry, the defense had a motion in limine. Go ahead, Mr. Duke. The floor is yours.
Judge, the state has tendered some discovery, which includes some some chat room messages that occurred on or about April the 13th between parties that are not involved in the case.
March 13th.
March the 13th of 2020. March 14th. And March 14th. I could on or about. That the defense would object to the entry of those under Texas Rules of Evidence 401, 403, 404, as well as Article 1, Section 10 of the Texas Constitution, and the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. We do not believe they are relevant. They are more prejudicial than probative. They would give it inappropriate character. And we would object to them coming in and ask that specifically, if the court's not willing to exclude them at this time, that at least the state approach before they get into any of those.
All right. And your reply? If you have
The
one.
state believes it's highly relevant. However, the state agrees with the court's ruling and will approach before we decide to get into that.
All right. The record should reflect that we had a discussion off the record before the court informed the parties at the time that I would reserve my ruling until I heard some of the testimony that might be related to or shed some light on what these messages might be. And we're going to call these the chat room messages. Do you have an exhibit that you were intending to introduce that would have these chat room messages that I could review while y'all are asking questions? Do you have something like that or no?
Yes, Judge, I can show you what we've...
Judge wants to pre-read these messages.
State's Exhibit 213, what we intend to introduce. These are emails between the parties.
You intend to introduce this binder?
Yes, Judge. And the chat room,
the
chat room messages are, it's the second page in the binder, and there are 3 chat room messages there.
It's a big binder.
Okay, so 3 chat room messages is what we're talking about.
They're lengthy.
Yes, it's 3 chat room related emails, I should say, but they've copied and pasted the entire conversation, or Darrin Lopez has copied and pasted the entire conversation chat room into 2 emails.
All right. And would you have any objection to me reviewing states 213?
No, Judge. We anticipate that coming in.
So I'm going to admit 213 for record purposes at this time. You need to lay the predicate in front of the jury and all that for all the other stuff in here, but I'll look for these chat room conversations. Is that pretty much what I'm looking for?
Yes, it's more of a play, I suppose. Our story.
Did you say a play?
A play.
A script.
Okay.
That's how it's written, so you'll recognize it.
Donna, Emma, Eric.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Then are we ready to call the jury?
Ready.
Wow.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so as the jury's coming in, this is interesting. It sounds like this might go to the role playing. We talked about this earlier, that the prosecution needs to sort of lay out the groundwork that this was a fantasy between the two, that they were in this together. They were both participating in this this fantasy of abuse, is what they laid out. A judge is flipping through the binder, which I guess reads like a play, but it appears to be text messages between two or more unrelated people that, from what we gathered, Darren has copied and made. Yeah, Ivan, you're not wrong. This might get really weird.
Thank you, Sheriff. Y'all may be seated. Sir, if you would please raise your right hand.
Yes,
You swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, please have a seat.
Wow.
Let me see the lawyers very, very quickly.
Okay. Oh, nice suit. Love the suit. 3-piece and everything, and he doesn't take the jacket off like the detective did. Detective Binder took his jacket off. 50 Shades of WTF. Darren getting a little sip of water there. Oh, wait. I was a little early, premature on the after gulp. Here comes the spice. Yes, we're hoping that there's not, the salacious details are not quite so pervasive in here. Hopefully it's handled properly. Did Diet Coke Mama see what brand of beverage brandy prosecution has selected, I wonder? Is it Diet Coke? I've not seen.
Still in the state's case in chief. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Eric Barnes, ERIC BARNES.
All right, and Eric, or Detective Barnes, for whom do you work?
I am a Dallas police homicide detective.
And how long have you worked for Dallas Police Department?
17 years.
How long have you been a homicide detective?
Going on 12 years.
All right, and did you do anything prior to starting with Dallas Police Department?
Yes, I did. I was enlisted in the United States Army.
That's right, before you went to Dallas Police Department?
That's correct.
Okay. In the Dallas Police Department, I'm sorry, you've been in homicide for how long?
Going almost 12 years.
Almost 12 years. Okay, and currently, can you tell the jury what's your assignment at Dallas Police Department Homicide Unit?
I'm assigned to a violent crime task force with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, where I'm a task force officer.
Okay, and what do you do? What do you do in that capacity?
So my typical job description, I will investigate any crimes of violence involving gangs, firearms, and narcotics.
But you still are with Dallas Police Department Homicide Unit.
Yes, 2 jobs. I basically juggle 2 jobs.
Okay. And then
full-time jobs.
Were you involved in the shooting that happened on October 9th of 2020 at 926 Waverly Place, and the victim James Faith Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How did you come to be involved?
On October 11th, October 9th, I was at the office while officers were at the crime scene, and Miss Jennifer Faith, who was the victim's wife, and also his stepdaughter were at homicide. I was at the office at my desk just doing my normal stuff, and Miss Faith had a medical episode.
Okay, and what did y'all have to do?
We ended up calling Dallas Fire and Rescue to get her transported to the hospital.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with the investigation on that particular day?
No.
All right. When does your involvement begin?
October 11th, I helped Detective Walton. We did a neighborhood canvass around the house where the murder occurred, looking for witnesses and also video footage.
All right. Do you also go to the home of Jennifer Faith on October 12th?
Yes.
With Detective Walton and look for and review her camera?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, and just continue on, Detective Barnes, if you can remember, like, how did you continue with your involvement?
So, in speaking with Detective Walton, there was some difficulties in this investigation, being that a person of interest, Mr. Lopez, lived in a different state. And just based on the laws in Texas, the authority of a peace officer kind of extends to the state boundaries. And by being a part of a federal task force, one of the things, we have jurisdiction over the whole United States. So I was able to offer resources to Detective Walton in terms of prosecution or any assistance on the federal side.
All right, and what was the first thing that you recall doing?
So on November 4th, I spoke with several people, primarily people that I work with here in the Dallas area. I spoke with AUSA Rick Calvert. We came up with a game plan on any assistance that could be provided here in Dallas and also in Nashville. We put together a team of individuals, law enforcement and state, to work a joint investigation on this case because, like I said, it crossed so many state boundaries. We also enlisted the help of several analysts here in Dallas, also in Nashville, with the Nashville Field Division, and we worked a financial investigation as well, just supporting the overall homicide investigation.
Okay. And this is because the focus is on Tennessee, because by this point, the person of interest, Darren Lopez, you guys had figured out lived in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that had been pretty well verified.
Yes.
All right, but at some point you want to actually put eyes on him, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and is it, now they've heard a little bit about the federal side of the investigation, but did Walton try to get local law enforcement agencies involved to see if they could see him or his vehicle that you have now at this point in the investigation come to known as a black Nissan Titan with the T sticker on the back?
That's correct.
But they could not because his acreage was too large. Is that correct?
That's correct. The outside of his property, there was a gate, a personal privacy gate, and I believe it was approximately 20 acres. So the house was a good distance away from the road, so he was unable to determine if the truck was parked there.
All right. And before I go on, if Darren Lopez was in the courtroom today, could you identify him?
Yes, he's a gentleman sitting right here with the yellow button-up shirt.
All right. May the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant in open court.
Record shall so.
Thank you. Okay. So you reach out to the ATF in order to do what, as far as putting some surveillance on the home in Cumberland Furnace?
While we were working the investigation, we believe it'd be a good idea to try to keep tabs on him, to make sure that just get a daily pattern of life for him, and also to catch someone driving the vehicle. So
go ahead.
So we decided that we would put up pole cameras to remotely watch his travel on two points inside his neighborhood.
Okay. Did you also do what's called a flyover?
Yes.
Okay. Was that prior to the pole cameras?
Yes, it was. So we set up the flyover before we put up the pole cameras. We wanted to actually see if we could get confirmation that a vehicle was still parked at on his property without notifying him that we were looking for it.
All right. And was this flyover actually done?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And what agency was involved with that flyover?
It was coordinated through ATF, but it was the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation that actually did the flyover.
All right. May I approach the witness? Detective, I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 98, 99, 100, and 101. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and were these photos sent directly to you?
Yes, they were.
And were these photos part of the flyover that you were just discussing?
Yes.
All right.
I think they used an actual plane for this flyover, like a Cessna.
98 through 101 for all purposes.
Maybe a drone. I think a plane would have been less suspicious.
No objection.
You're admitted, you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. Detective Barnes, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 98. Can you show what's relevant in that photo? And I know it's kind of hard to see.
At the bottom right-hand corner of the photograph is a black 2004 Nissan Titan that was used in the murder of James Faith.
Okay, at this point, were you aware that he had the gray Scion?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. In State's Exhibit 99, and you can look at your screen and touch it. I know it's hard to see, but in the what is significant about this photo?
The black Nissan Titan as well is parked at the bottom portion of the picture, and on the lower left-hand side of the rear windshield is the T that we were looking for.
Okay, and you can see it, I think, a little bit better in State's Exhibit 100.
That's correct.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 101. Okay, just an overview.
Yes. That image is upside down.
Okay, so once you get confirmation from this flyover that that is his truck and at that house, you guys then, or you and the ATF, then put up the pole cameras. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and do they take photos of that truck exiting or the residence?
Yes, on December 4th, 2020, we actually got the pole cameras installed, and while agents were installing the pole cameras, they saw the Nissan Titan traveling on the same road that they were installing the pole camera.
Yeah, like, oh crap, we've been made.
Did they also take photos of the truck that they saw from another car?
Yes, they did.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 102. May I?
Okay. Those guys can have permission to approach that the entire duration of this trial. We're not asking them.
Second time she says, quit asking.
State's Exhibit 102. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and this photo was taken by one of the agents from, it looks like, the inside of their car?
Yes.
Okay, so in a road in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee?
That's correct.
Okay.
Defendant pled not guilty.
Evidence, State's Exhibit 102. And I apologize like this.
No objection.
It's admitted. You may publish.
Thank you. All right, and I'll be brief with this one. This is just the one photo, but further confirmation of the black Nissan Titan with the T sticker in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee, correct?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so you've done the flyer with the pole cameras, keeping eyes on him. What else is going on?
On that last picture as well, we noticed that the vehicle had been modified from the time that it was used in the offense. There's a white bumper sticker placed on the tailgate of the vehicle that was not present during the murder.
Okay. Do you recall what the bumper sticker was?
No, I don't.
Let's zoom in and see it. New bumper
All right,
sticker.
can you continue? What do you guys do now? And we're moving into December at this point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
On December 8th, during review of the footage from the pole cameras that were installed, agents noticed that there was a significant removal of the T from the rear windshield of the vehicle.
And I'm sorry, how did you get that information?
It was from the pole camera footage.
Okay. That he was removing the T sticker, or the T sticker had been removed?
Yes, the T sticker had been removed.
Okay. And when you finally do the arrest and you see the black Nissan Titan, it is clear that the T sticker was removed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And when we get there, okay. Also, Detective Barnes, while you mentioned also using analysts.
Yes.
One of the analysts was Jessica Mast.
That's correct.
Okay. And this was early on, more in late October. But a lot's going on, so we're going to kind of be going back and forth from the months from October until the arrest in January 11th. But you guys sent a set of records to Jessica Mast for call detail records. And can you just explain to the jury, they got a little bit of it, but just what you were looking for and specifically why that is important to you as a detective?
The call detail records allow us to, the initial thing we were looking for is to see who our person of interest was. On this case, happens to be Mr. Lopez, what he was doing during the time of the offense. On this particular case, once we looked at the call detail records, there was a huge void in his call timeline. Based on the patterns of the days leading up to the murder, there was hundreds of calls and contacts made between him and Jennifer Faith. On the days of the offense, the day before and the day of the offense, there was very little communication between the two. And I felt that that was important because it was an alter in this pattern.
Okay. Good. And then also the investigation, you are, at the same time, you are gathering any information you can regarding any relationship between Darrin Lopez and Jennifer Faith. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. But at some point, you're doing financials. So as part of an investigation, you're doing sending out search warrants for records, correct?
Yes.
You're trying to do surveillance, correct?
Yes.
Reaching out to other agencies to help out if you need it, correct?
Yes.
Everything just like it was done in this particular case. One of the ways that you perform an investigation is to look, as they say, look the trail of money, right?
That's correct.
Look where the money's going. And in this case, what did you and the federal side do?
We sent out several subpoenas after we formed the impromptu task force. We sent out several subpoenas requesting information on Mr. Lopez's credit report and any financial institutions that he may be using.
Okay, and you found one financial institution that he used often was USAA, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And a subpoena went out to USAA, and can you explain to the jury what kind of happens from that point?
Once the subpoena is sent over to USAA, we had a financial advisor or financial examiner that was able to make contact with USAA, let them know that we were, first make sure they received the subpoena. Secondly, once they confirmed they received it, we were working an active murder investigation, and we were looking to kind of expedite some information from those records. So he was able to verify, make a phone call that there were records linked to the USAA debit card of Mr. Lopez on the days that we were doing the murder investigation.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Quit asking. Quit asking.
You think I would say please and thank you, like I say, may I approach the witness? All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, and 108. Do you recognize those photos?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and just generally, without getting into it, what are they photos of?
Still photos from surveillance footage at a Pilot gas station.
Okay, and were these photos emailed you directly from the people who work at the Pilot gas station?
Yes, they were.
All right. This time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence States 103 through 108.
My wife's telling me they saw wild horses and dolphins. They just went out to Shackleford Island.
They're admitted. You may
collected
publish.
massive shells.
Okay, Miss Detective Barnes. Looks like on State's Exhibit 103. What do you see in this picture?
We see the defendant, Darren Lopez, getting ready to pump gas into the suspect vehicle.
Okay, so we have the suspect vehicle, the Nissan Titan. We also have the black shirt and blue jeans, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and in State's Exhibit 104, same thing, but it appears you can see a mask, a blue mask on his chin.
That's correct.
Okay, State's Exhibit 105, you see him entering the store.
Correct.
106, with the mask on, the black t-shirt, or the black polo, whatever it is, and the mask on, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we have a receipt from the pilot. This first one, State's Exhibit 107, we see is just for the gas that was pumped.
That's correct.
1945, and we see the date, which is important, 10/8 of 2020 at 4:48 p.m. Sorry, right there.
That's correct.
State's Exhibit 108, we see the date. I'm sorry, this is the food, what he bought, and we see 10/8 at 5:09 p.m. So minutes after he does his pumping of the gas and presumably puts his card in, correct?
He bought $51 worth of food at a gas station? That's a lot of Cheetos.
And relevant to this, Detective Barnes, and the jury has already heard from Mark Sedgwick, and you're familiar with who Mark Sedgwick is, correct? An analyst at the FBI?
Yes, ma'am.
On that CAST team?
Yes.
And part of his record is that he says the device moves, but you can't say that the human has the phone, right? It's the device that's moving. But one of the ways is how do you corroborate?
The surveillance footage actually allowed us to put Mr. Lopez in the same location as the device.
Okay. In this instance, the pilot was important in this in his analysis, correct?
That's correct. The phone was at the pilot, and so was Mr. Lopez, who were actually able to physically verify that he was there in the vicinity of the device.
Okay. And that was another search warrant that you and Walton were doing at the same time, was the mapping for Sedgwick was using the Google records, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So during all this time, you're doing the search warrants, you're working at the financial angle, and you're part of the team with agents in Nashville.
That's correct.
You mentioned there was a team. Who was on this team?
On the Dallas side, we had AUSA Rick Calvert. We had analyst Jessica Mast, also Cecil Manuel, who's an analyst as well. We also had fraud examiner or financial expert Brad Bates. On the Tennessee side, we had analyst Michelle Morgan. We had a technical guy that was responsible for the poll cameras named Jim Nestor, and also Special Agent Ben Kochmeyer, who was the co-case agent out in Nashville.
Okay. Now, at this point, and by December 4th, when you're seeing the car with the sticker, and then there's some talk about the sticker being removed.
Yes.
Or a photo coming out about the sticker being removed. At what point do you decide, okay, there's enough for an arrest warrant?
It was, I think we filed for the arrest warrant early January of 2021.
Okay. Because at this point you have the original text from Jennifer Faith linking her to Darrin Lopez. Darrin Lopez being in Tennessee with the same suspect vehicle.
That's correct.
That's found in Dallas, Texas. He is living there. You see that same truck going in and out. And then by this point, you have the Verizon records linking them up.
Yes.
And also October 8th and 9th, where they stopped communicating.
Right.
And then you're getting, and one of the biggest things I think for you, Detective Barnes, is you are sending out for these Google returns.
Yes.
And the mapping is part of that Google returns, as we've talked about. You received these Google returns sometime in late December, would that be correct?
Late December.
I think the Google returns are for the 18th and then the 23rd. I think you get them back fairly quickly. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you go ahead and look at these returns. What do you do?
I look at the Google return, and I was able to determine that there was Google Maps were used to plug in a travel route from Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee to the victim's address in Dallas.
And how are you able to do that yourself?
The records come back with grid coordinates, and so I was able to take the grid coordinates from the return and place them into a map and see where the grid coordinates were at. And it was basically breadcrumbs all the way from Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee to Dallas, Texas, to about a block away from the victim's house.
Didn't cover any of his
So at that point, late December, you have the records showing that he, in fact, did travel on those exact dates to Dallas, Texas.
That's correct.
All right. And then you get the arrest warrant when?
On January 7th. Some of the delay between the end of December and the beginning of January was simply coordinating the arrest efforts. It was a little bit of a challenge to get assets in place around the holidays, and also we were coordinating a lot of movement from Dallas to Nashville with getting arrest teams in place to make sure we could get him in custody the safest way possible.
Okay, and then what is the plan to execute the arrest?
Our plan was to, we actually ended up traveling to Tennessee, mostly by car. We were planning on flying, but there was a snowstorm that came in the day as we were making plans. So most of us drove to Nashville. We had tactical teams in place, part of ATF's SRT team. And we actually, the early morning, our first day there, we were briefing and coming up with a game plan on how we were wanting to take him in custody. We didn't want to approach his house because he had several young teenage daughters, and we didn't want to put them in jeopardy or harm. So we intended on getting him the least intrusive way possible. We were hoping that he would leave in a vehicle. And ultimately he did leave in a vehicle. After we finished our briefing, we were going out to conduct surveillance, and we got information that he was out in a vehicle with his daughter, and they were going to do the takedown.
Do you recall which vehicle he was in?
Yes, he was in a silver Scion.
And were you there for the actual arrest?
No, I wasn't. Once I found out that he was in custody, I made my way to the local sheriff's office to get ready for an interview.
Okay. But as far as you know, he did not resist once they stopped him and arrested him. He did not resist. He complied.
He complied.
Okay.
I was able to speak with him shortly after he was taken into custody, and he was compliant.
All right. And
I think that's what the
meanwhile,
defense is going to question him on, his compliance.
He is taken into custody, and a search warrant has gone out for his residence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. The federal search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
At the same time, a search warrant goes out around the same time for the Scion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what's in marked State's Exhibit 109 and 110. And are these search warrants for the Darren Lopez residence and Darren Lopez Scion?
That's correct.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence 109 and 110 for record purposes.
No objection.
They're admitted for record purposes only.
Okay.
They already said no objection.
Okay. Were you there for the search of the home?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Who did you ride to Tennessee with?
I rode with ATF Task Force Officer Jabari Howard.
Okay. And he also works for Dallas Police Department. Is that correct?
That's correct. He's a gang detective.
Okay. So he was with you on this drive. Did he go to the house?
Yes.
Okay. So he was there. Were you there for... Okay. Ma'am. Okay. Detective Barnes, I'm going to show you what's marked. State's Exhibit 117 through 130. Can you take those, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of pictures. I like they're admitted in sequential order.
Okay. And these are pictures of the Scion?
Yes, ma'am.
That night, pursuant to the search warrant. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to offer evidence State's Exhibit 117 through 130.
She left me with about a third of a jar of dill pickles is all. It's awful. That's not enough pickles.
No objection.
They're admitted for all purposes. You may publish.
Thank you.
You're going to see the Scion now, the car he was arrested
These are
in.
just the photos of the Scion pursuant to the search warrant, correct?
Yes.
Oh, snow.
Okay. All right. And this is somewhat relevant. And you can turn to your screen, but what is relevant in this particular photos? What do you see on the passenger and driver's side seats?
Cell phones.
Okay. Who was he with when he was arrested?
His daughter Mackenzie.
His daughter Mackenzie?
Yes.
Okay. Was he driving when he was arrested?
No, he was in the passenger seat.
He was in the passenger seat. Okay. So presumably one of the phones would be his and one of the phones would be hers.
That's correct.
Okay. As they wouldn't be allowed to take them with them.
That's correct.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 120, just things that you are photographing of the back seat of the car, correct?
Correct.
And State's Exhibit 121, again, a picture where we can see the phone in the driver's side and the passenger side, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the trunk of the car, 122,
Yes, ma'am.
the back hatch of the car.
There's no shame in that, Carolyn. No shame in eating pickle relish
And
like pickles.
124, presumably this picture was taken, but also there's a roll of duct tape in there.
That's correct.
Thank you, Thomas, for the contribution.
You also collected a black backpack.
Exact price of the
Or a
pickles.
black backpack was collected, I believe.
Yes.
Or more than one bag was collected out of that car. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As well as a handgun.
Yes.
And another picture in States 130 of the handgun.
It's like a Glock.
That's correct.
Okay, this is not the handgun, however, that was
Springfield?
used in the offense.
No, it's not.
Okay. In fact, that handgun was found inside of his home.
Why are you
The
banging that?
murder weapon.
The
yes.
murder weapon was found inside of his home. And Stacy Vander Westhazen, if I got that right, was one of the ones that found that handgun.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she do with that handgun?
Once it was collected, it was maintained in our custody and transported back to Dallas so it could be compared to the shell casings collected from the murder scene.
Who transported it back to Dallas?
Jabari Howard.
And you in the car?
Was just Jabari.
It was just Jabari.
Yes.
Okay. And push the witness?
Trying to turn on the limiter here so that doesn't happen again.
138. States Exhibit 131 to 138. Can you look at these?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize what is photographed in those?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And were photographs taken of the handgun when it was returned to Dallas or brought to Dallas?
Yes.
Okay.
She's about to do it again. She's going to take that whole stack of pictures and whack them on the table to straighten them up. You don't have to. It doesn't take that much force to straighten up some papers.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer the evidence States 131 to 138.
Okay, the limiter's on. Whew, just in time, it turned on. So, if she does bang it again, it won't be as deafening. We'll cut off the top few decibels. She keeps evidence on the floor, apparently.
No objection.
They're admitted. You may publish.
So the firearm was a Springfield XD.
All right, Detective Barnes, just going to go through these quickly. The jury has seen these, but this is the particular handgun that was photographed. Is that correct? 131.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we see this, the blood.
That's
Yes,
the one that
that's
was used in the shooting.
And Smith & Wesson, and the serial number VAS 05. I can't read that. 9A. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just a closer view of that. VAS 0598. Yes.
That's correct.
All right. And then several photographs of the gun as well as the clip.
Ooh, how many does it hold?
And in States 137. Sorry, the clip's 136, States 137, another photo of that.
Looks like it holds 8 plus 1. That would explain the 9 shots if he was doing a plus 1 carry.
This was the gun that was brought back to Dallas. As part of your ongoing investigation in Tennessee, do you also find out where his black Nissan Titan truck is?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Do you recall where it was?
It was parked at a local high school that one of his daughters attended.
Okay. And were there photographs taken of the truck?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's marked in States 111 through 116. Can you flip through those and do you recognize?
I do recognize him.
Okay. These photographs were taken by Detective Gross, is that correct?
Yes, and also there was the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, I believe, also took photographs, but I think these were taken by Gross.
By Gross, okay.
Yes.
The witness is squaring up the pictures so she doesn't bang them anymore.
111 through 116.
Every time they use the Elmo, they turn off the lights. The cameras take some time to adjust the iris. They have to be manually changed back and forth. So when the lights are down, they have to open up the iris. Imagine having like your pupil open wide to allow more light in so they can see the people. And it looks sort of dark. But then they turn the lights on and your irises are wide open. Imagine having your eyes dilated when the lights come on. That's what we're getting. That's the effect we're getting.
Okay, in States 111, we have a picture of the black Nissan Titan in the parking lot, correct?
That's correct.
All right, this is just in States 112, another view.
No T sticker.
And can you point on the screen what is of relevance here?
The T is missing from the lower left portion of the windshield. There we go. In that area. And also the bumper stickers that were added after the murder.
Okay. And if you, I think, tap on it, it should erase everything. Or on the right, like top right corner or top left.
There's a clear button.
There we go.
Bingo.
All right, and we just have a side view in States 113. The back view, again, there is no T sticker on this, correct?
That's correct.
All right. What are we looking at in States 115?
It is residue left over from the removal of the T from the windshield.
Okay. And can you sort of draw a big circle around it?
You can see the sort of the edges of the T.
Okay. And then, if you'll clear that.
Use a razor blade to scrape that off.
116. What are we seeing here?
It's an outside view of the residue left behind from the sticker.
No one will ever know.
Okay.
How would they
At this
know?
time, you also do a search warrant for Darren Lopez's phone, correct?
That's correct. Once his phone was seized from the vehicle, we traveled back to Texas, and that was one of the first things we did once we got back in Texas.
Okay. And that has already been admitted as State's Exhibit 91 for record purposes. Okay. So that concludes at least the arrest.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you can tell the jury that was done in Tennessee regarding this particular investigation that you can think of? I'm sure there's a lot of
It's a
little
very
things.
open question. Overly
That's
broad.
about it.
Okay. Do you return back to? First of all, does Detective Walton? He was not with you.
No, he was in part of the strategy that we had on this investigation. We didn't want to show our hand because we felt that by notifying either Miss Faith or Mr. Lopez what we were looking at would possibly lead to evidence being destroyed. So we set it up where we would run simultaneous investigations and simultaneous warrants at the same time. So while we were working on Mr. Lopez's residence and getting him in custody in Tennessee, Detective Walton was in Dallas at the same time dealing with Miss Faith.
Okay. And just trying to keep them from communicating with one another.
That's correct.
Okay. At some point, though, he does travel to Tennessee.
Yes.
The next day, maybe?
The next day.
Okay. And then you and he go back to Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
Okay. During this time, do you meet or have spoken to, while you're in Tennessee, Darren Lopez's estranged wife, Rebecca Lopez?
Yes, I did.
While you were in Tennessee?
Yes.
You met her?
Yes.
Okay. Are you later contacted by Rebecca Lopez?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall when you're back in Dallas?
That's correct.
Do you recall if it was weeks, months?
I would say it was maybe a couple weeks.
Maybe a couple weeks.
Yes.
Okay, and how were you contacted?
We exchanged phone numbers.
Okay, and did she call you about something that she had found?
Yes.
Okay.
We might be getting to those messages.
Okay, and what had she found?
Rebecca told me that she was taking care of several of financial matters for Darren while he was in custody. He gave her access to his email account.
Objection here.
She found several emails between Darren and Jennifer that she thought would be helpful to our investigation.
There's no objections to this. I think we're going to start seeing some objections.
And she emailed you the emails, screenshots of the emails.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's marked as states 188 through 203. Can you look through that and see if that's what she emailed you? And were they all at once, or did they come in at different times?
They mostly came in at once.
I'm not seeing pictures. It looks like text. Well, there's a picture. If the pictures are bad, we won't be seeing them. The cameraman takes care of that.
The screenshots that she sent to you.
Yes.
And what do you do with this information?
Once we received that information, we looked at it and saw that it was relevant to the investigation. We then wrote a search warrant for Darren's Hotmail account.
Okay, pause there.
Okay.
I'd like to offer the evidence, states exhibit 188 and 203 for all purposes.
This court is like an ASMR special. They have mics all over the place, and if anybody lets a toot, we're going to hear it. It's going to be everything that happens in the courtroom, every swallow, every can opening, you name it. It's carried in all its glory to your ears. There may be something spicy here. We don't have to rehash it in chat. Thank you for the reminder, Tish. We'll see if we can get through this without being demonetized by YouTube for the content.
We have no objection.
Those exhibits are admitted as offered. You may publish.
Okay.
So these are different messages if there's no objection.
We're going to get into this later. I'm just going to go through these briefly right now. What we see in States 188, for instance, is from Jennifer Faith to Darrin Lopez on 4/6 of 2020. I can tell he's texting you sorry, and then she's saying, I love you, this has become a mess.
That's correct.
All right? This is just the same, just screenshotted. Now, on this screenshot is from Darrin Lopez to Jennifer Faith, where he's calling her Angel, and the email that he wrote out for Jamie.
That's correct.
Okay. He talks about going to the police. The rest is enough for me to go to Dallas PD. They'll open an investigation to him and Jeremy. But he's asking Jennifer in this one to send just one picture showing injuries so he can then forward that on to Jamie that he has it, presumably, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then it just goes on. And again, we'll get into these emails more in depth, but this goes on. This is another one that looks like was sent. Looks like what was sent to Jamie.
Yes.
Okay. No date on this one, just a screenshot.
There was a bleep.
Okay, and then we have some, looks like just injury photos of just a neck in States Exhibit 196. That was emailed to you as well, right?
Yes.
And then we have a few other injuries, like one States 197.
That's correct.
All right.
I believe these are the Shutterstock images that she downloaded.
And now we have, it looks like an email from someone named Robert Schmidt to Darrin Lopez regarding Jen on July 26th on States Exhibit 202 on July 26th. He talked to Jen and he's been burning her among other things.
That's correct.
And then with that, then we have Jennifer Faith forwarding it to an email address called schmidt225@gmail.com, sending a pic of what she claims is a burn, and says again, please do not tell Darrin about this. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So based off these emails, because this sort of came out of the blue, right?
Right.
You go ahead and get the search warrant for Darren's Hotmail account.
That's correct.
I'm going to show you what's the marked states 211 and 212. This is the search warrant you did for Darren's Hotmail account.
Yes.
Okay, and that Hotmail account is drlp75@hotmail.com.
That's correct.
Okay. And this is the business record affidavit that you get back with the Hotmail emails.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence State's Exhibits 211 and 212 for record purposes only.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
They're admitted for record purposes only.
Okay. All right. When you get the returns from Hotmail, there's thousands of emails, right? Or at least, I mean, a lot of emails to go through.
Yes.
Do you find the emails that you and I just briefly went through, do you find those in his Hotmail account?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And do you find that there is an email from Jamie Faith as well? There are emails from Jamie Faith to Darren Lopez and forwarding back and forth. Okay. And was that email jamiefaith511@gmail.com?
Yes.
All right. And there was an email just like we talked about with Robert Schmidt, SCHMITTR225@gmail.com.
That's correct.
All right. And did we come to find out later that that's their birthdays?
Yes.
Basically.
Jennifer pled guilty.
Without the birth year in
That's
it.
correct.
Okay. And the number one thing you're told not to do is use your birthday in an email, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
You can buy stock photos.
You also, at this point, or was it later, that
It's a
you
company
do
that
a
provides
search
images.
warrant for R. Schmidt, the email I just talked about, and Jamie Faith 511?
Yes.
May I approach the bench, Your Honor?
Okay, she says, may I approach the bench? She's going up to the judge. Saying, hey, I don't know why the other attorney doesn't come up there. You should. You don't want just one attorney talking to the judge.
All right, I've got a lot of paperwork in here, so I'm just going to bring the whole file. So it appears the search warrant that's in evidence for record purposes was signed around July of 2021. Okay, so when you get these records back and you do find that there are people, the emails that you and I just talked about from the jury, then you and your team subsequently do more search warrants for those particular emails. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So a search warrant to Google for the email Schmidt, SCHMITTR225@gmail.com.
Yes.
As State's Exhibit 204. And then to Google a search warrant for user account Jamie, JAMIE, Faith, FAITH 511@gmail.com as State's Exhibit 205.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We also have State's Exhibit 206, which is the Google email for Jennifer Faith, in this case spelled JENNIFER, Urlaub, URLAUB@gmail.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Urlaub presumably is an ex-husband or a former marriage.
That's correct.
Okay. And in States 207, 208, we have the returns from Google regarding Jamie Faith and R. Schmidt with
Yes.
the return staple. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In 207 and 208.
The jury does not know she's in prison, or at least they shouldn't.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence search warrants 206, 204 and 205 and 206. Returns from Google regarding the Schmidt and the Jamie Faith emails 207 and 208.
No objections here. This plays right into the defense.
And the returns
Story.
are stable for record purposes only.
No objection.
They're admitted for record purposes only. Make sure you put them in the right file.
Yeah.
Here comes 209 and 210. Yes, we've already had the 109 and 110.
Okay. All right. And as I said before, from his Hotmail account, do you come to find emails between Darren, Jennifer, this James Faith 511, and R. Schmidt 225?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, before we get into all of that communication, you and I and Ms. Paver, co-counsel, have gone over the emails, calls, and texts from Darren's cell extraction and his Hotmail account, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The cell phone extraction, is that evidence for record purposes as well as the Hotmail and its returns, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We have looked at the relevant time frame from the time that Darren reaches out to Jennifer Faith through almost up to the time of his arrest. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
He was a little behind the times.
Just give me a second to get these in order, Your Honor.
Yeah, there's no trial of Jennifer because she pled guilty before the trial started. She took the plea deal. She's banging the papers on the desk again.
This one is out of order, but this is State's Exhibit number 80.
Okay. Don't make it out of order.
Text messages between Darren Lopez and Tina Spring. Do you recognize these?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry. Tina Spring and Jennifer Faith.
That's correct.
Okay, and these were part of the texts that start from the very beginning of this investigation that led you to a possible suspect named Darren Lopez. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have reviewed these texts and seen them on Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction.
These were on Jennifer Faith.
On Jennifer Faith's cell phone extraction. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
No witness list.
Then we have State's Exhibit 215, a call log of the phone calls between Darren Lopez and Jennifer Faith taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction.
That's correct.
All right. And you have gone over the WhatsApp messages taken from, in State's Exhibit 216, taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction.
That's correct.
These are text messages, grouped together by Cellbrite, taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction, State's Exhibit 217. Text messages between Darren Lopez and Jennifer Faith, November to January.
That's correct.
These are State's Exhibit, this is State's Exhibit 218, and these denote the deleted texts that
correct.
Show up, okay?
Yes.
Taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction.
Yes, ma'am.
This is 219, another page of the deleted text that we can see from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction.
Yes, ma'am.
220, we have more text messages grouped together by Cellbrite, taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction, Darren Lopez to Jennifer Faith, and back September texts.
That's correct.
And the Friends and Family group text, taken from Darren Lopez's cell phone extraction, State's Exhibit 221, including him after the murder with all of her and her friends.
That's correct.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I would like to offer into evidence States 80, as well as States 215, the call log, States 216, the WhatsApp messages, States 217, text messages, 218, 219, 20, and 21 for all purposes.
No objections? Let's see.
Are these the ones we previously reviewed with you?
Yes.
No objection.
Okay.
Those exhibits are admitted. You may publish.
Okay. Possible spicy alert. See what happens here.
And again, Detective Orange, you, me, and Peyton Kramer have gone through his entire cell phone extraction. In States Exhibit 2, well, actually, Your Honor, at this time, I just want to offer into evidence States Exhibit, is that a 9 or a 4? States Exhibit 214, which is the entire conversations for record purposes.
No objection.
It's submitted for record purposes only.
And then, Your Honor, I believe I'm going to need the binder.
Okay, the binder. She says, I'm going to need the binder.
Yes.
This is the... does the jury get excused for this?
So the record's clear. The portions that I removed were items that we discussed at the side of the bench, and I'm going to admit those for record purposes as 213A.
Yeah, OPSEC was not a thing. Operational security.
Sure.
Okay, so now the attorneys are going to have the discussion about the messages. Those email messages that have been removed. 213A, I think is what they're calling it. They're going to start getting into. He's making sure all the mics are turned off. Probably the white noise machine is turned on. There could be messages of adult nature in this. These are. I realized they were carrying on a long distance emotional relationship affair, I guess you could say. And it was primarily text-based. This binder is not nearly as big as Detective Binder's binder was, but it's just as filled with information. She looks like she's blushing up there, the DA. Yes, the judge name is Brandon Birmingham. His court is number 292. You see his name, Judge Birmingham, there in the top left-hand corner of the screen. He's got a little Texas plaque with 292 on it. How did she get to go to a federal prison? I think she pled guilty to federal charges. Took a plea deal. Did the feds offer a plea deal? Rudy, it might be. We'll see. We've gotten this far. Maybe YouTube.
Members of the jury, we've reached a nice stopping point. We're going to take an early lunch, and we're going to have you all come back at noon because we've reached a point where the rest of the next segment of testimony is going to be best done all at once. So come back at noon, please. Please don't discuss the case among yourselves. Please don't do any independent research. I'll see you all at noon. All rise for the jurors.
Darren looks like he's got his hands at his sides, thumbs pressed into the seam of his pants, almost at attention. And he stands like this every time the jurors come and go. That would be the years of military showing through. Let's see if there's going to be anything on the record here before they go to lunch. As they're discussing the Brandy's channel's pretty wild, y'all. I can imagine with the case she's following. It's got some crazy stuff going on. Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, good to see you. Happy hump day to you as well. You've been MIA, but you're back. But you're back. It's awesome to have you here, even for just what you're able to be. Let's see. Has to not ruin your lunch. Yes, eat first, and then we'll ruin your appetite. We might be in the red zone when we come back. It might be a little rough. Let's see what happens here, if there's going to be anything on the record before they go to lunch. Okay, there's the star. That looks good. They reached a fork in the road. Gail, they're presenting evidence that the sides are spinning. They're obviously the prosecution is going to present this and saying, look at this, this back and forth discussion, this fantasy that they were playing out in via text, via email. Look how they played into each other and encouraged it and took part in this exchange. And defense is going to say, look at how she misled him. Look at how she played him in this and led him along. So they're going to use the same evidence. The defense is not objecting to this because honestly, it's easier for me to see the defense's side on this than it is for me to see the prosecution's. Unless we see something, where we get a message from him saying, "Hey, tell me more. Tell me that story again," something like that. Unless we see a lot of that, where it shows that he's interested in the story for something other than the content. For the truth of the matter, it's going to be. It seems to be more beneficial for defense than for the prosecution. Although, the defense is just trying to get the jury to feel sorry for the witness. That's it. They're saying not guilty, but at the same time they've almost admitted that he did it. So they're acknowledging that he did everything that he's being charged with, but saying please find him not guilty. So I know Ivan said this is a case for jury nullification. I don't know how that would play out in Texas. We'll see. It can be used by both sides. They'll definitely put a different spin on what we hear. Brandy and alternate jurors are both covering business. It is a very crazy trial. You have to rewind to hear the hump day yell. Yes, we did it right at the beginning of the show. Wants to do it again. I don't think I have two in me. I would be like a little hoarse. I'd have a little frog in my throat for the rest of the day. And I think we're going to lunch. I think that's it. So we'll take that and go run with it. They said come back at 12:50, right? We're going to come back about 12:45, which gives us half an hour. My phone's ringing. I'm going to have to answer it. It's my kid's friend. He just keeps calling. Let's see. I don't have it with me. Let's see. I think we're all good there. All right. Yes, so on lunch, hang on. Let me listen to this message. Oh, they just hung up. Okay, I'm going to have to go find something to eat that I can microwave. I think it's going to be like a Uno or maybe, I don't know, can you microwave taquitos? I think you have to bake those. Microwave special is where I'm at today. We'll be back. ASMR Court is going to continue after lunch. Give us about half an hour. Go eat real fast. This judge is quick. It's like a Hot Pocket. An Uno is like a Hot Pocket. Mickey grilled cheese. I'm not sure if I even have cheese, actually. I'm going to have to do an inventory of the fridge and see if you guys can come up with some suggestions or go the Chat GPT route. I'm fine. I have plenty of food and storage. I have food storage. So, you can microwave taquitos. Okay, that's good to know. We'll probably do some of those. Let's see. Taquitos are awesome in the air fryer. I need to get an air fryer. I know I'm late to the party. I was late to getting the Instapot. I was still using a crock pot when everyone else was using the Instapot. Judge is back at noon. We're going to be back about 15 minutes before then. Mrs. O'Reilly left us nothing. Yeah, she even took all the water. I had to go out and get more water in the house, bottled water. Homegrown tomato sandwich on my lunch menu. I wish I had a garden this year. I don't know when I would weed it, but I wish I did. It's really good. Love the Instapot. Amazing. Okay, so now that we're all talking about food and we're all hungry, it is time to break for lunch, and we'll get some food, and we'll be right back. I think we made it through. We made it through this morning without being demonetized. I'm not sure about the afternoon. That might be a little different, as we're starting to get into these text messages that might get a little spicy. Might get just a little bit. We're all adults here. We can handle this. We'll get through it. I don't think it will be to the level of the Shabusiness trial. So hopefully we made a good choice there. Look, good recommendations from VC. Air fryer instant vortex plus clear cook plus order ease 6 quart. There we go. It's almost a link. We'll have to look that one up. Check the box of taquitos. I will. It's brand new. We just got it at Sam's Club. So she didn't take everything. But kids can weed. That's a great idea. That's how I grew up. So they should get the same experience. You guys, it's been a fantastic morning. Thank you so much for being here in the Court of Public Opinion with your host, Mr. Recovery Addict. I've never called myself a Mr. Recovery Addict before, but I did it today. First for everything. It's time for lunch. You guys have some great lunch. We'll be back here to finish the afternoon of trial. It's going to be fantastic, as usual. Tonight, when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again in about half an hour, because the judge is really quick. He eats in speed mode, like two times speed. But we're going to get some food. We're going to be right back. If you want to be first in chat, you could win the internet. All this could be yours. Britta did a great job with it this morning. Thank you very much. You did fantastic. You're welcome to win again if you'd like. I know Kim, is going to give you a run for your money. But we'll have that up here in just a minute, so watch for that. Thank you all. We'll see you. Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day. We'll see you after lunch. See you guys.
Because he's the guy.